Chapter 234. Countless camera flashes and a bright red carpet. This was the venue of the Super Queen Awards ceremony. This was also the second time Tongning had attended a large-scale award ceremony since announcing her comeback. The first time she attended was the annual Model Awards. At that time, she received the Special Contribution Award. As for today's Super Queen Awards, she was simply attending as a guest to get to know the seniors of the modeling industry. As Hua Jingjing was supposed to be the star of the show, Tongning subconsciously dressed up a little as she left the house. But Mo Ting had already instructed Long Jia to prepare a dress for her. She wore a bat-sleeved jacket, an irregularly pleated skirt, and a pair of gold heels adorned with butterflies. It was almost like he wanted Tongning to appear mysterious and retro. The couple sat in a van. Hua Jingjing looked at Tongning and couldn't help but comment, "Your outfit is a little different from your usual style." "My manager insisted." Tongning replied. "It does look good. He has good taste," Hua Jingjing complimented. Tongning laughed it off, not wanting to dwell on the issue any longer. Mo Ting was the one who prepared all the clothes. Even if it was a piece of jewelry, he had to know everything. Tongning had a feeling that today's award ceremony would be a little different. It didn't take long before the couple arrived at the venue. As they sat in the van, they could see many of the biggest names in the fashion industry walking down the red carpet. Amongst them were many singers and actors that had been invited to perform. This was a testament to the power and influence of Super Queen. Oh God. Friends, I can already see Hua Jingjing stepping out of the car. Accompanying her is Tongning, who has just signed with Hai Rui. Hearing the host's voice, Long Jia was the first to step out of the car. She then opened the car door and welcomed Hua Jingjing out. However, before Tongning could step out of the car, a scream could be heard from outside. It wasn't a scream of joy, it was a scream of surprise. Even Long Jia and Hua Jingjing did not expect Yuanxin to leap over the railings and kneel down in front of Hua Jingjing. Everyone was shocked, but at the same time, they began to take pictures of the couple. This was big news. Did this jerk of a man come back to beg Hua Jingjing to change her mind? How shameless did he have to be to do something like this? Everyone was in an uproar. Meanwhile, Tongning sat in the car and did not step out. She knew Hua Jingjing still needed some time. Hua Jingjing wore a long silver dress that wrapped around her slender figure. Her long wavy hair was tightly attached to her back. She wore exquisite makeup, and in order to accentuate her skin tone, she even applied a bright lip color. But in front of such a goddess, there was a scumbag man kneeling. She no longer cared about her dignity as she knelt in front of Hua Jingjing and grabbed onto the corner of her skirt. "Jingjing, can you forgive me? I know I was wrong. I've been a beast for more than 10 years. Hua Jingjing lowered her head at first, but after a few seconds, she raised her head again and said coldly, "Get up." "You forgive me? I simply hope that you will never appear in front of me. I, Hua Jingjing, am an international supermodel. There are hundreds of millions of people in this world that admire and protect me. Who do you think you are?" Hua Jingjing laughed. "If I could do it all over again, I hope I could erase a stain like you. Even if I have to go to the 18th level of hell. From now on, focus on loving your Lu Yuan. She is the one that truly loves you. As for me, I really don't want to be tangled with you anymore. I have a better life ahead of me. I don't want to waste another second on you." After speaking, Hua Jingjing pushed Yuanxin away and helped Tongning out of the car. The sisters looked at Yuanxin. As Hua Jingjing walked away, she said to Yuanxin, "If you continue to harass me, I will have no choice but to take legal action. Yuanxin, don't make me feel even more disgusted by you." The entire media witnessed Hua Jingjing acting like a queen as she walked past Yuanxin. She was implying that from now on, she would never foolishly give her all to a jerk. Seeing this scene, the host gave Hua Jingjing a thumbs up. This was the type of attitude a woman should have. If there was something unworthy of lingering on, she should kick it away and make it disappear from her sight. "Oh God, you are so cool." Our Hua Jingjing and Tongning, who are attending as guests, saw the two of you holding hands and thought you were a couple. It's obvious the two of you have a great relationship. Let's invite the two of you to leave your names on the wall. Behind them, Yuanxin was still kneeling at the front of the red carpet. However, Hua Jingjing did not look back. She was an almighty international supermodel. Why would she stay for a jerk like him? Jingjing, I love you. Be my wife. Amongst the crowd, many of Hua Jingjing's male fans shouted out. Hua Jingjing looked at her fans and generously blew them a kiss. Seeing Hua Jingjing in high spirits, Tongning let out a sigh of relief. Everyone had been worried for nothing. The lively Hua Jingjing had transformed from a chrysalis into a butterfly. She was even more dazzling and confident. Entering the venue, most of the models and guests had already arrived. However, Tongning and Hua Jingjing were not seated next to each other. Beside Tongning sat Qin Yu and the people from Star King. The two had already formed a grudge because of EQ. Now that they met again, there was no need to be polite and say hello. However, at the award ceremony, Qin Yu won a few awards and kept walking past Tongning on purpose. In the end, Qin Yu placed the trophy in front of Tongning and asked, "I'm giving you one, do you want it?" Tongning did not respond as she stared straight ahead. Hua Jingjing is the one receiving an award today. Why did you appear? How strange. Tongning, it doesn't feel good being suppressed by Hua Jingjing, does it? You're the one that doesn't feel good. Tongning couldn't help but ask. If you can't even beat a newbie like me, how are you going to beat Hua Jingjing? Why do I feel like you are like Hua Jingjing's follower? Do you listen to whatever she says? If you are capable, then beat us on the runway. Otherwise, everything you say will be meaningless. Beat you? That's easy, I have plenty of trophies in my hands. But what do you have to offer? Qin Yu smiled in ridicule. However, I am quite surprised that Hua Jingjing is here. After all, she has just been dumped by a man. Plus, I almost forgot, you have also been dumped by a man. So, the two of you must appreciate each other. You are both the same. You were ridden on and then dumped. Chapter 235. Qin Yu thought, even if Tongning didn't lose her composure in anger, she would at least be upset. But Tongning simply closed her eyes and told Qin Yu, "There's no point in talking back to me." When it came to self-control, apart from her own husband, Tongning had never met anyone that was better than her. Of course, she wouldn't do something like falling into someone else's trap just because she was distracted. Qin Yu let out a laugh. She suddenly felt she had underestimated Tongning. Hey, here's another award for you, Miss World's Top 10 Most Beautiful Breasts. Qin Yu received 3 to 4 awards, but none of them were important. The important awards were all in the hands of Hua Jingjing and the others. The first-ranked model was another national treasure of Hairue. Not only was she a supermodel, she also created her own clothing brand at a young age. She had always been at the top of the fashion industry, and rarely made an appearance at events like this. Even Hua Jingjing didn't see her often. In second place was a representative from Star King. Of course, Hua Jingjing was in third place. This ranking was a testament to the amount of money these models made. In terms of the domestic market, they were at the top of the pyramid. Tongning sat quietly below the stage as she watched Hua Jingjing walk onto the stage. As she held onto the trophy, she felt happy for her. At this time, Hua Jingjing, who was standing on the stage, glanced in Tongning's direction as she gave her speech. Their eyes met, and the smile on their faces said it all. As everyone knows, a few days ago, I was on the brink of collapse. But one person pulled me back from the brink of destruction. This person was Tongning, who is sitting below the stage right now. As Hua Jingjing spoke, tears suddenly rolled down her cheeks. I'm not sure if anyone has ever been warmed by someone before. Before I met Tongning, I never had. Throughout the long years of darkness, the word that crossed my mind the most was death. But Tongning brought me back to life. She told me to persevere a little longer. Because I persevered, I am once again standing on the stage. I feel she is a great person. As long as she recognizes someone as a friend, no matter the consequences, she is willing to stand out and take an arrow for them. How lucky I am to have met her. Lastly, I would like to thank my family, Hairue, and all my brothers and sisters. Lastly, I would like to thank myself. In the future, I will make my life more exciting. I will live with more meaning. Because only now do I realize that I'm living like a human. After hearing Hua Jingjing's words and seeing her kiss the trophy, Tongning led the crowd in a round of applause. Soon, the entire ceremony erupted in applause. As long as a person has faith, no one and nothing can stop her from being reborn. After listening to Jingjing's words, I feel a lot of emotions. Since Tongning is here today, can we invite Tongning and Jingjing to perform for us? Let's sing a song together. Are you looking forward to it? The host asked the audience excitedly. What responded to her was, of course, a warm round of applause. The host chuckled. Seeing both Hu Jingjing and Tongning nod their heads, he replied, "Okay, let's continue with the award ceremony. Tell them to go get ready." In reality, Tongning had already been notified beforehand that she would be performing with Hu Jingjing. Although singing wasn't her forte, since it was to celebrate Hu Jingjing's rebirth, it wasn't a big deal to let loose for once. Hu Jingjing was the winner of a popular award, while Tongning had always been a hot topic in the modeling industry. Tonight, the two walked the path of warm sisters, so naturally, they attracted a lot of attention. As a result, the people from Star King were left out in the cold. Especially after hearing that the two would be singing a duet. Qinyu, who was sitting beside Tongning, looked at her with a deep gaze. So while Tongning and Hu Jingjing were preparing backstage, Qinyu disappeared from her seat. After quite some time, she finally returned to her seat. Not long after, the ceremony reached its climax. Tongning and Hu Jingjing appeared on stage at the same time. They each held a microphone in their hands, and each occupied an important side. One was black and the other silver. The spotlight shone on the two. Under the watchful eyes of the audience, a soothing tune began to play as they sang the song Lost. No one expected that Hu Jingjing's singing voice would be a little hoarse and mellow. On the other hand, Tongning's voice was clean and calm, but it also had an explosive power to it. They were professional models, but they could still sing. Lu Che was watching the live broadcast in his office. As soon as he heard Tongning sing, he excitedly ran over to Mo Ting's office and helped him turn on the television. On the screen, the two silhouettes were dazzling and stunning. As for their voices, Mo Ting was shocked. This was also the first time Mo Ting had heard Tongning sing. She was such a quiet person. Who would have thought she could sing so well? "President, from now on, if the madam doesn't want to walk the runway anymore, we can release an album," Lu Che suggested. "No," Mo Ting rejected. "From now on, only I will be able to listen to her sing. This time these people will be lucky." Lu Che. Mo Ting smiled as he closed the document in his hands. "Notify Fengyu that it's about time to release the news." "Understood." Lu Che nodded as he turned to leave. Mo Ting supported himself with one hand on his desk as he watched Tongning and Hu Jingjing sing on the screen. Their mesmerizing voices and rich emotions were indeed moving. Mo Ting suddenly let out a gentle laugh. It couldn't be that after this song, someone would actually want to release an album for his wife, right? At the awards ceremony, the duo's performance stunned everyone and won a round of applause. Tongning and Hu Jingjing looked at each other. After the lights changed, they walked to the center of the stage to give their thanks. However, at this time, a man wearing a baseball cap suddenly rushed onto the stage and threw himself at Tongning. Tongning was originally standing at the edge of the stage. With this throw, she rolled off the stage. The accident happened too suddenly, causing the entire venue to be in an uproar. As for the man wearing the baseball cap, he quickly jumped off the stage and ran towards the last place where the fans were gathered. The security guards quickly chased after him. Hu Jingjing also jumped off the stage to check on Tongning. But all she found was Tongning lying motionless on the floor. Tongning! Tongning! Tongning took a few seconds to regain her senses. With the help of a group of people, she sat down on one of the guest chairs. "Are you okay?" Hu Jingjing asked anxiously. Tongning shook her head. In reality, the thing she was most afraid of was being seen by Mo Ting. Seeing Tongning with her hands on her knees, Hu Jingjing was obviously in disbelief. She stood up to call an ambulance, but Tongning held her back. "Don't make a scene. Let's catch the culprit first. I'm really okay." Chapter 236. How could you say you're fine? Hu Jingjing looked at the 1-meter-high stage and remembered Tongning had just rolled down. She quickly grabbed her arm to check. You must have been on the news. Did you really think no one could see it? Hua Jingjing understood Tang Ning's concerns, so she replaced Mo Ting with someone else. However, Tang Ning simply smiled and explained. Luckily, there was a carpet underneath. The host of the award ceremony also approached and helped Tang Ning up. Can you still walk? Do you need to go to the hospital? Tang Ning shook her head. In reality, the pain was only obvious at the moment she was pushed down. But when she rolled down, she didn't feel much. Okay, get some rest. If you need anything, let us know. The host comforted. Don't force yourself. After speaking, the host returned to the stage to cover up the awkward scene from before. The atmosphere quickly returned to normal, and the award ceremony continued. However, news of Tang Ning's fall still quickly leaked out. The security guards dragged back the man in the baseball cap. He was a 17 to 18-year-old teenager with pimples on his face and a rebellious appearance. He said he is a loyal fan of yours. He likes you so much that he lost control for a moment. Long Jie relayed what the security guard said to Tang Ning. He's just a kid. Plus, you're fine, so the security guards didn't want to make things difficult for him. They simply taught him a lesson and let him go. Do you believe him? Hua Jingjing asked as she scanned the crowd. Tang Ning shook her head, but she still had a sense of balance in her heart. At least, she was able to pinpoint the culprit. Star King definitely has something to do with it. But we have no evidence. In that case, we'll just have to endure it for now, Tang Ning replied calmly in a soft voice. Hua Jingjing may not have realized, but Long Jie was well aware that Tang Ning was patiently enduring. She wasn't going to let this go so easily. Do you want to leave first? No need, you still have an award to attend. I'll get Long Jie to help me back to my seat. Tang Ning endured the pain as she stood up. Her legs were a little unsteady. Hua Jingjing quickly held on to her and yelled. Are you stupid? How dare you try to be brave? I'm not trying to be brave. This was because she remembered she had slipped in the bathroom, and Mo Ting had spent the entire night laying down a non-slip carpet. If she returned home early, Mo Ting would be even more worried. Mo Ting likes to make a big deal out of nothing. Hua Jingjing froze for a moment before reacting. Tang Ning did this because she didn't want Mo Ting to worry too much. I really don't know what to do with you. Not long after, Tang Ning returned to her seat. Everyone around her expressed their concern, regardless of whether they knew her or not. Qin Yu was the only exception. As soon as Tang Ning returned to her seat, her sharp senses noticed the smile on Qin Yu's face. Whether she did it on purpose or not, this smile had taken root in Tang Ning's heart. Her principle had always been revenge. If Star King really had something to do with this incident, she would definitely make them pay. Hai Rui Entertainment. Fang Yu was just about to release a press release when he heard from the reporters at the scene that Tang Ning had been in an accident. She had been pushed off the stage and rolled off the stage. Fang Yu immediately headed over to the CEO's office. However, he found Mo Ting sitting gloomily in his office chair. The coldness emanating from his body made one's breathing speed up. President, do you still want to release the press release? After I get out of here, I'll release it. Mo Ting signed the last document and handed it to Fang Yu before grabbing his jacket and entering the elevator. At this time, Fang Yu noticed Mo Ting's signature had never been so sloppy before. In fact, there were even traces of alterations. From this, it was clear to see how angry he was and how much he had to endure it. The only reason he did not explode on the spot was because he knew Tang Ning was trying her best to hold it in. He was worried. But Tang Ning didn't want him to worry too much. This was obvious from Tang Ning's series of reactions. It was best if he didn't find out who was pulling the strings behind the scenes. Otherwise, once this bottom line was crossed, it wouldn't be so easy to get over it. Meanwhile, during a break in the award ceremony, Hua Jingjing was sitting in the bathroom cubicle when she overheard a few female artists discussing Tang Ning's fall. Of course, the industry had always been one to step on the weak and support the strong. Especially after seeing Tang Ning's current development. They couldn't help but feel jealous. Who did this? Have you guys received any information? No matter who did it, they did a good job, didn't they? Let me tell you a secret. Someone just saw Star King's Qin Yu leave the set. I'm not sure what she was doing sneakily. You saw her? My assistant saw her. She'll keep your voices down. This is a battle between Star King and Hairue. It's best we don't get involved. All they heard was a loud bang as Huijingjing pushed open the cubicle door and walked out. As soon as the models saw Huijingjing, their expressions changed. They quickly lowered their heads and grabbed their handbags before disappearing from the gossip. However, Huijingjing chased after them and asked, "Whose assistant saw you?" The women's expressions did not look good as they lowered their heads and pretended they hadn't said anything. But who was Huijingjing? She revealed a cold smile as she said to the women, "How dare you offend Hairue? Do you still think you can survive in this industry?" The women froze for a moment. After weighing their options, they finally told Huijingjing everything they had heard. They also told her about one of their assistants who saw Qinyu leave the set to look for her manager. Huijingjing closed her eyes and suppressed the pain in her chest. She put on a smile and walked over to Tongning's seat. The culprit has been found. Tongning looked at Huijingjing in surprise. Huijingjing winked at her and pointed her chin towards Qinyu. Tongning reacted and added, "Who is it? I've already reported this matter to President Mo. This matter can be light or heavy. You almost lost your life. So President Mo said he wants Star King to give him an explanation. If they can't give him an explanation, they will completely blacklist her and make sure she no longer has a foothold in the industry." Huijingjing deliberately raised her voice. "Isn't that right, Miss Qin?" Qinyu was a little flustered as she stuttered. How would I know? Someone's assistant saw her. Are you sure you don't know?" Qinyu analyzed the situation in front of her and felt Huijingjing's words weren't trustworthy. So she calmed down a little. "What did you see? Do you have any evidence?" Chapter 237. Huijingjing had been in the industry for over 10 years. She had seen plenty of people like Qinyu. So, she secretly kicked Qinyu in the leg with the sharp tip of her shoe. Qinyu did not expect Huijingjing to kick her. She let out a cry of pain as she stood up and called out Huijingjing's name. It didn't take long for the host to notice the commotion below the stage. He quickly reminded the director to avoid the cameras and not let it affect the final broadcast. "Huijingjing, are you crazy? Don't go overboard." Qinyu couldn't control her emotions as she yelled out in a high-pitched voice. It didn't take long before she attracted the attention of everyone. At this time, Huijingjing did something even more unbelievable. She stood up and threw a slap across Qinyu's face. Plenty of people on set saw this. Huijingjing had hit Qinyu. "How dare you hit me?" Qinyu held her cheek as she stared at Huijingjing in disbelief. However, after throwing the slap across her face, Huijingjing quietly sat back down without giving an explanation. This made people assume a small character like Qinyu was asking for a slap in front of a supermodel. With her international status, so what if she gave you a slap across the face? If you didn't ask for a slap, would she even bother with you? Who are you? Above all, Qinyu had just called Huijingjing crazy in front of so many people. With her level of EQ and IQ, she deserved to be hit. The host and the staff were afraid the situation would get out of hand, so they quickly stepped forward to stop it. However, Qinyu pushed them away. She had no intention of letting the incident pass. "Huijingjing, Tongning is just a third-rate model. Is she worth your protection?" "Try saying Tongning is a third-rate model again," Huijingjing scolded. Qinyu was in a difficult position. The situation had already gotten out of hand. If she admitted defeat now, how would the people on set look at her and Star King? So Qinyu gathered her courage and replied, "I said Tongning is a third-rate model, a third-rate model. Do you understand? So what if she joined Hairue? It doesn't change the fact that she was previously blacklisted by Star King. Plus, isn't she just a foil? Isn't she trying her best to curry favor with you so she can climb up the ladder? Don't misunderstand. If you still treat her like a treasure, she might turn around and sell you out." The three of them were seated on the right side of the third row. It was a relatively hidden spot. But there were still plenty of people that heard Qinyu's mockery towards Tongning. Although I don't know how Tongning managed to get into Hairue, don't forget, the CEO of Hairue hates it when people play tricks. I can't wait to see how Tongning dies. Death. Tongning stared coldly at Qinyu the entire time. Her gaze was cold and contained a hint of ridicule. However, just as Qinyu was about to mock Tongning, Hai Rui had already released a statement. Many of the artists present were bored, so they swiped through their phones and saw the news. They were so shocked that they covered their mouths. Tongning. Don't you agree? Qinyu was still verbally attacking Tongning when an unknown woman on her right leaned on her arm and said, "Don't worry about me. Miss Qin, I don't think you should continue. Do you know who Tongning's manager is?" Qinyu turned her head and glanced at the woman. The disgust in her eyes was clear as day. The woman looked innocent as she reminded, "Do whatever you want. If you don't want to listen, then forget it. I simply think it's quite funny." Qinyu didn't understand what the woman meant. At this time, everyone below the stage was whispering amongst themselves. Because this news was simply too shocking, no one could have imagined it. This is so surprising. Hai Rui just released an announcement. CEO Mo Ting has actually become Tongning's personal manager. Personal. Most importantly, this person is Mo Ting, the mysterious and terrifying king of entertainment. I'm so envious of Tongning. How did she do it? For the CEO to personally make an appearance, Tongning must have something special about her. It's good to think about it, Sue. I also want the CEO to be my manager. No matter how slow Qinyu was, there was no way she wouldn't know what had happened. So, she leaned over and grabbed the phone from one of the guests beside her. As soon as she saw the announcement from Hai Rui, her face turned pale. Hua Jingjing had also seen the news. She held up her phone and asked Qinyu, "This is the so-called third-rate model that you were talking about." Yet, she managed to get the king of entertainment to be her manager. And it's his personal. Some people may be done for. Qinyu, you were the one behind the incident on stage, weren't you? As Tongning's manager, how do you think Mo Ting will handle this matter? I can confidently tell you that President Mo's methods kill without spilling blood. Qinyu's breathing quickened as she glanced at Tongning and slumped into her chair. In reality, when Tongning first found out about this news, she was also shocked and surprised. Although Mo Ting had previously given her a boost of confidence, she never expected Mo Ting would use this opportunity to reveal his identity as a manager. "Hey, look at that bitch's expression," Hua Jingjing reminded. Tongning let out a laugh as she relaxed. So what if he announced it? After all, it was the truth. "I never thought President Mo would dote on you so much that he would personally become your manager. Did you know about this beforehand?" "I knew. I just never expected he would reveal it." Tongning was a little nervous and helpless. She was afraid Hua Jingjing would have a different opinion of her. That's good too. With President Mo's protection, I'm sure those bad people won't dare to get close to you again. Hua Jingjing said generously. Perhaps it was because she was older than Tongning, she subconsciously acted like she was Tongning's older sister. She felt guilty for not being able to help Tongning vent her anger on the stage. But now that Mo Ting had revealed himself as Tongning's manager, this was equivalent to sending Tongning to new heights. At least from now on, those that wanted to bully her would have to think twice about whether they could afford to offend Mo Ting. So, the news that Hai Rui announced immediately became a hot topic. Mo Ting had become Tongning's personal manager. Regarding such a heavy bomb, the outside world spread all sorts of rumors, because it was simply too surprising, too shocking, with Tongning's background, who would dare to compete with her in terms of resources. This was Mo Ting they were talking about. Regardless of whether they could compete with him or not, they still needed to have the guts to. Chapter 238. Overnight, the way everyone looked at Tongning had changed. Envy, jealousy and unwillingness filled their eyes. Everyone surrounded Tongning, pointing fingers and whispering amongst themselves. However, no one dared to step forward and challenge Tongning. This was because Tongning had already been branded with Mo Ting's name. If someone didn't want to continue in the industry, they could try challenging Mo Ting's authority. Tongning subconsciously furrowed her brows. Hua Jingjing noticed and asked, "This is something you must endure. You need to endure it. I need some time to get used to it, Tongning replied. Plus, when it comes to the future, I still have a lot of uncertainties. I believe the two of you can definitely move forward hand in hand. Tongning nodded her head. At this time, the award ceremony was nearing its end. Qingyu was afraid that Mo Ting would get back at her, so she left with a guilty conscience. However, Hu Jingjing held her back. Miss Qin, are you leaving already? Are you afraid that President Mo will get back at you? Qinyu's face turned red and white. She wanted to leave, but not only did Hu Jingjing not let her go, she even approached her and held her back. Let's go together. Tongning lowered her head and laughed. As she stood up from her seat, she felt a little dizzy. It seemed she still had some lingering effects from the moment she fell off the stage. Hu Jingjing turned around and glanced at her. After confirming that she was fine, she calmly walked in front. The group left in an orderly manner. However, the focus of the media was on Tongning. As soon as she appeared, the reporters immediately swarmed towards her. Miss Tang, can you answer a few of our questions? Miss Tang, can you tell us why President Mo wants to sign you as his artist? Miss Tang, President Mo is so busy. Does he really have time to be your manager? Hearing these questions, Tongning couldn't help but laugh. She knew these weren't the questions the media wanted to ask. What they wanted to know was why the almighty CEO, the big boss of the entertainment industry, would be the manager of a model like her. What was her relationship with Mo Ting? Was there some sort of dirty deal between them? But because no one dared to spread rumors about Mo Ting, the reporters had a hard time holding back their questions. They didn't dare to ask too harsh of a question, so they could only wait and see if Tongning would keep her mouth shut and reveal anything. As there were too many reporters, the road was completely blocked. So Long Jie and Hu Jingjing's assistant quickly rushed over to help. Long Jie stood in front of Tongning and said to the media, Tongning isn't feeling well today. I hope the media can be merciful. With this reminder, the media finally remembered that Tongning had fallen on stage earlier today. However, the media did not let Tongning off the hook. Tongning never liked to be interviewed. If they missed this opportunity, who knew when they would get another one? So, there was no way they were going to interview Mo Ting. Tongning, please satisfy the media. We are just trying to make a living. Yeah, you should respond to the doubts of the outside world. Hearing the word doubt, Tongning smiled and asked, what do the public doubt? The reporter froze for a moment before replying. We all want to know why the almighty CEO of Hai Rui would be the manager of a model. We are all shocked. If that's the question, then you should be asking him, not me, Tongning said as she tried to explain. In reality, her waist was sore and she was wearing high heels, so if she stood for too long, it would hurt. In that case, are you President Mo's mistress? The reporters began to ask more daring questions. Tongning let out a laugh and shook her head. Of course not. She was simply his wife. In that case, have you known President Mo for a long time? I don't think there's any point in telling you this. Tongning maintained her smile as she replied in a watertight manner. What are you pretending for? Isn't she just a prostitute who slept with him until the end? Someone in the crowd suddenly mocked. Everyone turned to look at the man. At this time, the man in his early 20s couldn't help but laugh. What are you looking at? Do you think I'm joking? Let me tell you, I actually have evidence in my hands. As Tongning looked at the man, she also noticed his name tag. Huarong Studio. It seemed, this studio was like a ghost that refused to leave. It seemed, the so-called editor Lin had found a bunch of small fries. Tongning also had no idea that Huarong had previously captured her, and Mo Ting being intimate at the manor. It was just that they hadn't revealed their trump card yet. Are you crazy? Are you trying to gain attention? The other reporters began to curse. Tongning is a bitch. I'm going to throw it all out there. One day, you will all believe what I say. Hasn't she said enough? You still need to believe her. In the past, she said she doesn't have a boyfriend yet. She's actually dated a few big shots. You just don't know. Hearing this slander, Long Jie was immediately angered. She pointed at the man and said, if you have the guts, why don't you repeat what you just said one more time? Even if you have Mo Ting backing you, I'm not afraid. The man sneered. Just wait until we've sorted out the evidence. It will definitely shock me. Falling on stage? Did you really think they were your hardcore fans? Did they just find you an eyesore and wanted to mess with you? I hate women that appear innocent on the surface, but are actually dirtier than everyone else. Chinyu was left to the side to watch the show. She suddenly felt this reporter was quite interesting. Perhaps she could learn a lot of information about Tongning from him? Watch your mouth. Longjie warned angrily. Watch my mouth. Sure, but you have to make sure you do everything cleanly. You are already suspicious. How come President Mo didn't want to be anyone else's manager and chose to be Tongning's personal manager? Also the back you saw earlier. In reality, the question that the male reporter asked was exactly what everyone wanted to know. However, they didn't dare to ask Tongning directly. After all, Tongning was no longer the same as before. Tongning stood there for a few minutes. Her back was in so much pain that she took a step back. Longjie could feel it, so she immediately contacted the organizers and asked for backup. At this time, a black Mercedes van arrived and stopped in front of the entrance. A moment later, Mo Ting stepped out of the van and approached Tongning amidst a series of screams. He didn't travel like he did himself. He didn't use a luxurious van. Instead, he used a van that suited Tongning's status. This proved that he was serious about being Tongning's manager and wasn't treating her like a mistress. The media immediately changed their target. However, they raised their microphones and did not dare to ask any questions. They were afraid of Mo Ting's gaze. Chapter 239. The media gathered around Mo Ting, blocking him from Tongning and Mo Ting. Although they had their microphones pointed at Mo Ting, all the questions they could ask seemed to have become one. President Mo, please say a few words. Say a few words? What words? Mo Ting was surrounded by the reporters and was only a few steps away from Tongning. Seeing Tongning subconsciously holding onto her waist, his eyes narrowed as he said two cold and harsh words. Move! The reporters closest to Mo Ting, as soon as they heard these two cold words, were so scared they took a few steps back. They didn't dare to surround him. They didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. Not only that, the reporters also opened up a path for Mo Ting to walk directly in front of Tongning. Tongning was a little nervous. She was afraid Mo Ting would notice she was uncomfortable. But how could she hide from Mo Ting's eyes? Mo Ting ignored everyone as he directly walked in front of Tongning. He placed his hand on her shoulder and leaned in close to her body before lifting up her black shirt. Tongning was a little uncomfortable, but everyone could clearly see the blood on her waist. It wasn't that she wasn't injured, she was simply holding on. Mo Ting did not look at Tongning as he stood up straight and turned to face the reporters. What do you want to know? Ask me now. The entertainment reporters were given the opportunity to ask questions, but no one dared to approach Mo Ting, because the words he had just said were more frightening than the words let go. Mo Ting looked around and then glanced at Chinyu. You guys have no questions, but I have a lot of questions. Who is the mastermind behind Tongning's fall? I will give her 1 day to come out and explain herself. Otherwise, I will make her entire family suffer. You only have 1 day, no more. After speaking, Mo Ting continued to say coldly to the media, You have no questions, right? In that case, don't come back and ask me again. Tongning stood behind him, her face pale. Not many people noticed this, but she couldn't hide it from Mo Ting. As for those reporters with evidence waiting to expose Tongning, I, Mo Ting, will be waiting for you. Remember, I am Tongning's manager. After speaking, Mo Ting finally turned around, lifted Tongning in his arms and quickly walked out of the reporter's line of sight. The reporters, including the reporter from Huarong's studio, were all shocked speechless. They didn't have the guts to do this. To challenge Mo Ting. Hua Jingjing had been clinging onto Chinyu the entire time. Now that she looked down, Chinyu's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. This was because Mo Ting had just said that he had 1 day to confess to the truth. Otherwise, his entire family would not be able to live in peace. Seeing that Chinyu was in a daze, Hua Jingjing tried to loosen her grip. Unexpectedly, Qingyu fell to the ground with a lifeless look in her eyes. He was probably scared out of his wits. Hu Jingjing smiled as she boarded her van with Long Jia. Let's wait and see if Qingyu will be self-conscious tomorrow. How interesting. On the other hand, when Tongning was in Mo Ting's arms, whether she was standing or sitting, she did not feel any pain. However, when Mo Ting carried her horizontally, she felt a piercing pain. Tongning held back her tears. Only then did Missouri Ting place her in the van and drive straight to the hospital. On the way, Mo Ting kept urging Lu Che, drive faster. Tongning wanted to say something, but she couldn't muster any strength. After finally arriving at the hospital, Tongning lay down on a stretcher. Not long after, she fell asleep and lost consciousness. By the time she woke up, she was lying in bed. The hospital room was quiet and dark. Tongning wanted to sit up, but she found her waist was temporarily held in place. She had no way of moving. Mo Ting was originally standing by the window. Tilting his head, he noticed Tongning had woken up. He walked over to her and pressed her down on the bed. Don't move. Tongning obediently lay back down and leaned against the headboard as she stared at Mo Ting. Mo Ting lowered his head without a word. After a short pause, he lifted his head. Although he was suppressing his anger, it wasn't hard to hear the anger in his voice. Can you not tolerate something like this? This was the first time since they got married that Mo Ting had spoken to Tongning in such a tone. Anger. This was true anger. Tongning did not say a word. Her lips twitched a little, but in the end she did not explain. She slowly lay down and turned her back to Mo Ting. Do you know how much my heart aches for you to be like this? Mo Ting said this with his back facing Tongning. His voice was a lot softer and carried a sense of grievance. Tongning still did not move, but Mo Ting sat on the edge of the bed and wrapped his arms around her body. Tongning hugged onto Mo Ting's arm. After quite some time, she finally said in a raspy voice, I'm not trying to calm things down, and I'm not trying to let the culprit go. I'm not that generous and I don't care about other people's lives. I am simply worried that you will be worried. Previously, I merely scratched my skin a little and your heart ached for so long. If I were to be sent to the hospital like that, how bad would you feel? I want to hold on. At least, I can explain it to you when we get home. Mo Ting did not say another word as he lay down and hugged Tongning from behind. At first, Tongning did not show any emotions. But she suddenly burst into tears. You were so fierce just now. I didn't do it on purpose, Mo Ting comforted. I won't be fierce to you from now on. Tongning cried for a while before she struggled to turn around. Finally, she laid her head on Mo Ting's chest and felt a sense of security. You have a back injury. You will need to rest for at least half a month. You can't continue with your filming. Okay, this time, Tongning did not force herself as she nodded her head in agreement. She was afraid that if she continued to force herself, she would become a huge burden to Mo Ting. But I want to go home and recover. I'll go ask the doctor. After speaking, Mo Ting got up from the bed and told Tongning to get some rest. He then let Long Jia and Hu Jingjing into the room. Poor girl. Long Jia lay down on Tongning's bed. Just thinking about the scene of Tongning rolling off the stage made her feel a little scared. Meanwhile, Hu Jingjing crossed her arms and looked down at Tongning from above. I already told you, there's no way to hide it from him. But, Hu Jingjing sighed. President Mo is really angry this time. If you get hurt, he wants the entire entertainment industry to suffer. Thinking back to the scene where you rolled off the stage, not to mention him, even I have a lingering fear in my heart. I've always been afraid. I'm fine now. Rest well. There's still a good show to watch tomorrow. Hu Jingjing winked at Tongning. Hu Jingjing winked at Tongning. It can't be helped. If someone dares to touch the president's precious baby, then they can only blame themselves for being unlucky. Don't talk nonsense. Go home and get some rest. Take your trophies home with you, Tongning said to Hu Jingjing in disdain. Chapter 240. Tongning was seriously injured. As soon as the media received the news, they rushed to the hospital late at night. Mo Ting followed the doctor's advice and allowed Tongning to leave in her wheelchair. Only after the media took photos did they realize that Tongning had been enduring the entire time at the awards ceremony. Apart from taking photos, the media did not dare to get close to Mo Ting, let alone Tongning, who was under his protection. After the two women boarded the van, Wuxia said to the media, "Thank you for your attention, but Tongning needs time to recover." The reporters wanted to dig out more explosive information from their mouths, but Mo Ting wanted them to remember that he was Tongning's manager. So even though the media wanted to follow them, they were stopped by Mo Ting's warning. Since they couldn't dig out anything from the people involved, there was only one method left: digging up a grave. Starting from the Crown Star fashion show, one incident after another, the media spared no effort in piecing together Tongning and Mo Ting. But at that time the information was too fragmented. If Tongning already had Mo Ting as her backing, she would not have gone through so much trouble. So the existence of the facts didn't provide the media with much information. Of course, just because they couldn't dig up any information earlier, it didn't mean they couldn't dig up any information later on. For example, the media had already compared Mo Ting's back to the male lead of LM's commercial. In the end, everyone was shocked to discover that there was a 90% chance that Mo Ting was the Backview Dream Man. During the Ling Feng incident, he was the man that helped Tongning overcome a difficult time. Afterwards, Tongning went on an interview with Feng Kai. During her answers, she clearly stated that she was married to the most powerful man in the industry. The reporters had no way of verifying whether this information was true or not, but all sorts of information regarding Tongning and Mo Ting had surfaced overnight. However, no one was able to give an accurate answer. Above all, according to an insider, Mo Ting had secretly helped Tongning on numerous occasions. There were also people who denied the rumors that Mo Ting had helped Tongning because of her professionalism. The most shocking piece of information was that Mo Ting and Tongning both lived at Hyatt Regency. All of a sudden, everyone fell into a state of speculation about their relationship. Some people felt that Tongning's situation wasn't as complicated as they thought. She simply overcame all obstacles to gain Mo Ting's favor. There were also people who believed that Mo Ting and Tongning knew each other from the start, and that Mo Ting had been helping her from behind the scenes, helping her achieve her current status. There were even people who believed that Tongning had made use of dirty sex to get to where she was today. But no matter which explanation it was, there was something illogical about it. After all, Tongning had been trying to prove herself along the way. As a result, the originally quiet and aloof person in the eyes of the media suddenly became mysterious. The public were more curious about her than they thought she was. She had too many secrets. This result is exactly the same as the president predicted. The public's curiosity towards Tongning has almost gone crazy. Feng Yu couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the public's response. Wuxia received the information from Feng Yu's hands, glanced at it and nodded his head. However, I am more curious about the culprit that caused the madam to fall on stage yesterday. Do you think she will come out and admit it? She better come out and admit it. Otherwise, no one can predict the consequences. Wuxia replied in seriousness as he leaned against his desk. Feng Yu understood what Wuxia meant because Mo Ting was indeed swift and decisive towards the public, but he couldn't hide the fact that he doted on his wife like she was his own life. By the way, after seeing the relationship between the president and his wife, don't you want to be in a relationship? Feng Yu asked as he sat in his office chair with his legs crossed. Is there no one that you like? Wuxia turned around and looked straight ahead at the painting on the wall. This reaction, it's obvious that there is someone. I don't know, Wuxia shook his head. I don't know what it means to like someone. Bro, with your EQ, how did you survive until now? Feng Yu couldn't understand. He stood up and walked over to Wuxia's side. Based on what you're saying, it means you have someone in mind, but you're not sure, right? Wuxia lowered his head. Wuxia lowered his head and nodded. Actually, I'm not really interested in women. I find them too troublesome. Even if it's someone as smart as the madam, I still find it tiring. You can tell just by looking at the president. But there's one person I always unconsciously give the green light to everyone else. Sometimes, I wonder if it's because she treats me very well. Feng Yu carefully observed Wuxia, especially his eyes. Realizing he was truly confused, he let out a laugh. In that case, do you like being with her? Wuxia paused for a moment and nodded his head. I don't dislike it too much. In fact, I find it quite comfortable. That's good then. Let's continue to be like this, Fang Yu encouraged. If he were to ask Wuxia whether he liked her or not, he would probably be scared off. People with low EQ couldn't handle a scare. Since the other party was also nice to him, it meant that the other party also had the same intention. In that case, he would let this wooden fool enjoy the feeling of ambiguity. This kind of heart-awakening beauty was not something that everyone could experience. After a moment of silence, Wuxia nodded his head. In that case, I'll leave first. Hurry up and leave. Do you think I have nothing better to do? Fang Yu pushed him away in disdain. Although Wuxia walked out of Fang Yu's office, his mind was still thinking about the question Fang Yu had just asked. Actually, his parents had been pressuring him to get married, but he had always felt women were too troublesome. Perhaps it was because he had a telepathic connection with Longjie. He suddenly received a phone call from Longjie. Wuxia furrowed his brows, but still picked up the phone. What is it? Haha, I heard a lot of news that Qinyu is too scared to leave the house. Right now, she's wondering if she should come out and admit it. Did you call me just to tell me about this? Longjie froze for a moment. She realized Wuxia's tone wasn't quite right, so she asked, Are you busy? Or is it because you're annoyed? Don't we normally do this? Wuxia did not respond. If you think it's inconvenient, then I won't talk to you about it again. The main thing is, I have no one else to talk to. After speaking, Longjie was about to hang up the phone when Wuxia suddenly spoke. It's not inconvenient. Huh. Longjie suddenly felt elated. I said it's not inconvenient. If you want to call me, then call me. Wuxia repeated himself. Longjie's heart was already blooming with joy. As long as she could prove that she was special in his heart, she would be satisfied. Chapter 241. As for the relationship between Mo Ting and Tang Ning, there were plenty of rumors going around, but no one dared to blow it up. Because with Hai Rui's PR, they had no way of verifying the authenticity of the news. Because of her waist injury, Tang Ning had slept the entire night. When she woke up in the afternoon, her throat was dry and she couldn't speak. All she could do was use simple hand gestures to express herself. Mo Ting sat on the edge of the bed and hugged her as he examined her wounds. As there were abrasions and soft tissue damage, it would take at least 15 days for her to fully recover. Tang Ning lay on top of Mo Ting's body and tried her best to absorb his scent. It was like he was her daily nourishment. Mo Ting gently placed her down and placed her head on his lap. His heart ached as he brushed away the hair on her forehead. Hurry and get well. You didn't rest for the whole night again? Tang Ning asked as she flipped over with difficulty. Her eyelashes gently trembled. I'm not a god. Of course I rest. Mo Ting stretched out his hand and gently stroked Tang Ning's skinny cheeks before continuing. There is a competition overseas. I've already helped you sign up. What kind of selection event? Mo Ting's gaze moved down Tang Ning's body and stopped at her legs. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get a placing, so let's not talk about it for now. Qinyu still hasn't come out to admit her mistake? She probably won't come out until 11:59. Mo Ting was well aware of the mentality of these people. Plus, Qinyu had never been a person that was willing to admit defeat. Until the very last moment, she would never be willing to make a decision. You purposely made her suffer like that, didn't you? Tang Ning laughed as she grabbed onto Mo Ting's hand and interlocked their fingers. Mo Ting noticed Tang Ning was in a relaxed mood, so he pulled out a list of posts and showed it to her. Tang Ning flipped through the various speculations from the outside world, and suddenly felt a little nervous and lost. They've all guessed it? Did you think, after I announced myself as your manager, they would still be so stupid? Mo Ting laughed. As long as they don't respond, there will be no answers. These people are trying their best to find out about our relationship, but let them guess. Mo Ting did not admit nor deny it. He simply did what a manager should do. Protect the person he wanted to protect. As for Tang Ning, Her mission was to be a good model and move towards the runway of her dreams. They will eventually find out. Are you afraid? Emoting asked. Tongning shook her head. Her mood was a lot more relaxed than when she first saw the rumors. No. I like this method. It allows the reporters to slowly accept that we are the ones in charge. Whether we go public or not, we have the final say. Of course, after Emoting's identity as a manager was revealed, there were those that tried to dig up secrets, those that ridiculed them, those that tried to defame them, and of course, there were also those that were filled with teenage girls. Sob, 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 my girlish heart. Tongning is like a little kitten baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. She is being protected by a big tiger. She is so cute. I don't care. It doesn't matter if they admit it or not. I will definitely support this couple. Wow, Tongning's long legs and President Mo's 1.9m height, they are a perfect match. I didn't think LM's commercial was good, but now that I've flipped through it, it's full of love. An almighty CEO actually lowers himself to become a model's manager. If this isn't love, then what is there to be sad about? One fan even posted a picture of Emoting rescuing Tongning at the awards ceremony. They even drew it into a comic, making his fans want to vomit blood. I can't wait for them to go public, but I also want them to remain mysterious. What a contradiction. President Mo, you like our Tongning, don't you? With Tongning's cold personality, she needs a domineering CEO to dote on her. I'm perfect. This was something Tongning never expected. She never thought she would be able to gain fans as a couple. As she looked at these comments, Tongning couldn't help but feel a little happy. That night, Wuxia arrived at Hyatt Regency with a box full of letters and gifts. He told Tongning, "These are all letters from your fans. Some are for you, some are for the president. It hasn't even been a day. They are all to congratulate you on having the most invincible manager in the universe and the most powerful bodyguard." Tongning smiled as two dimples appeared on her cheeks. But, I can't believe these people had the courage to write to the president. It seems, with you as an excuse, they no longer think he is so high up in the air, and is starting to feel a little more human. Tongning received the letters in her hands. She was actually quite touched. Did this mean, with her position, she no longer had to look up to Emoting? In reality, she understood deep down that this was all because Emoting had shielded her from the wind and rain. But even so, in the eyes of these people, was she still a good match for Emoting? What are the letters for him? Tongning curiously opened one of the letters and let out a smile. President Mo. I don't dare to speak to you directly, but you are too handsome. Madam, whenever you are bored, you can read these letters to pass the time. Wuxia placed the box beside Tongning so she could reach out and touch it. Afterwards, Tongning pulled out a yellow envelope. However, it did not contain a letter, it contained a photo. It was a photo of her kissing a man. Of course, Tongning knew who she was kissing. But when the people from Huarong Studio took the photo, because it was nighttime and they were too far away, they could only capture her back. Tongning hid her smile as she looked at the letter at the end of the photo. Tongning, we will definitely see through your flirtatious facade. Don't get too complacent. Tongning placed the photo on the bedside table and waited for Moting to finish his work, so they could admire it together. It was already 8 p.m. Tongning flipped through the news and discovered Hairue had already pressured the organizers of the awards ceremony twice. In reality, they were warning Qinyu that she didn't have much time left. This time, not only was Qinyu in pain, even her manager was pacing back and forth in the room anxiously. She was also involved in this matter. Did you handle this matter properly? Qinyu asked as she grabbed onto her pillow. Did you know that Hairue has already issued a second warning? I'm not sure either. Her manager's forehead was covered in sweat. Even if I'm sure, I wouldn't dare to underestimate Hairue. After all, you are well aware of President Mo's methods. Is the agency still not willing to stand up for me? Qinyu's eyes slowly filled with despair. Although the agency has been secretly fighting over the years, they have never dared to openly fight with Hairue. This time, Emoting is obviously going to make you pay. No matter how you try to escape, you won't be able to escape. Qinyu, admit your mistake. Tongning's injuries aren't light. It's impossible for Mo Ting to give up on pursuing the matter. Chapter 242. After hearing her manager's words, Qin Yu felt unsatisfied, angry and wronged. As a result, the pillow between her hands was no longer in shape. It was twisted just like her face. Tongning sure has a good life. Qin Yu laughed in ridicule. After speaking, she turned to her manager and begged, "Help me do one last thing. No matter what you do, get me Tongning's phone number." "Qin Yu, why are you doing this?" Qin Yu smiled bitterly. Hai Rui had already forced her to this extent, and no one in the agency cared about her life or death. What else could she do? "Contact the media. I will announce my retirement from the modeling industry." "No, Qin Yu, it wasn't easy for you to get to this point." "In that case, tell me, do I have another path?" Qin Yu asked as she lifted her head. With Mo Ting, there was no way she could get past Tongning. Qin Yu's manager shook her head, stood up straight and sighed. However, as she turned around, her manager sneered behind her back. Since Qin Yu was willing to take responsibility, it meant Hai Rui would no longer cause trouble for her. With Qin Yu as a scapegoat, even if she lost Qin Yu, she could still support someone else. Star King had already given up on this chess piece, so why should she waste any more effort? It didn't take long before Qin Yu's manager used a little trick to obtain Tongning's contact details from the business partner and handed it to her. Qin Yu held on to Tongning's contact details as she watched the clock in the living room swing continuously. Time was running out, so she finally got through to Tongning's phone. "Tongning, I was indeed the one that ruined the stage, but I will never regret it. You are just a third-rate model that has never received an international award. What right do you have to take away the opportunity that belongs to me? I hate you, especially when you act so high and mighty. Although I lost today and can no longer be a model. Tongning, remember, I curse you. I curse you to be abandoned by Hai Rui. I curse you to lose your reputation and get into a car accident as soon as you step out of the house." Qin Yu spoke agitatedly into the phone, venting the anger in her heart. However, on the other side of the phone, after quite some time, a deep voice came through. "I am Mo Ting. I am Mo Ting. I am Mo Ting." Qin Yu had no idea Mo Ting was the one who picked up the phone. So the words she had just said. As she thought about it, a chill ran through her entire body. Qin Yu suddenly panicked. "Mo. Mo. Just now I was talking nonsense. Is that so? You didn't do it on purpose?" Mo Ting's voice was deep and dangerous. After asking the question, Mo Ting pulled out his phone and played the recording of Qin Yu's rant. Although it was incomplete, but the last two sentences of her curse were clearly recorded on the phone. Qin Yu knew she no longer had the right to be arrogant, unless she really wanted to be done for. So she sobbed and said, "President Mo, I beg you, please have mercy. It's not that I don't give people a chance to do something wrong, but for someone to say something like that and then beg for mercy, you are not worthy of me raising my hand." After speaking, Mo Ting suddenly raised his tone. "I don't have much patience. Let me remind you, it is currently 9 a.m. After speaking, Mo Ting hung up the phone and immediately gave Lu Che a phone call. "Help Tongning get a new phone number. Also, for any events from now on, just leave me your contact details." "Understood, President." Lu Che could hear the anger in Mo Ting's voice, even though he had no idea what had happened. Afterwards, Lu Che also gave Long Jia a heads up. Long Jia guessed Tongning had received a threatening phone call, which was why Mo Ting reacted so strongly. But in reality, it was because Qin Yu had cursed Tongning to get hit by a car when she left home. Such an evil woman with such an evil heart. As the big boss of the entertainment industry, he could of course make sure Qin Yu died a horrible death. This was a must. In reality, as soon as she put down her phone, Qin Yu's fingers were trembling. She didn't know what had happened to her. Why would she make that phone call? Most importantly, it was picked up by Mo Ting. In the end, Qin Yu threw away her phone, hugged her knees and started crying. Although she wasn't willing to accept it. Apart from withdrawing, she had no other choice. 10 p.m. Qingyu appeared in her best attire. She walked to the entrance of her villa and stood in front of the reporters. In reality, the reporters could more or less guess the reason why Qingyu did this was because of what Mo Ting said the day before. The mastermind that hurt Tongning had to come out and admit to it within a day, no more waiting after that. However, they couldn't understand why Qingyu and Tongning had such a huge grudge. She had been pushed down from the stage. To put it in a more serious way, there was a possibility she could have lost her life. On this cold winter day, Qingyu was dressed in a black trench coat with delicate makeup on as she faced the reporters. Under this gloomy and rainy weather, her assistant stood behind her holding an umbrella with a blank expression on his face. I, Qingyu, would like to announce today that I will be withdrawing from the modeling industry and will no longer be involved in the entertainment industry. I would like to thank all my friends who have supported me for so long. I have no way to repay you. I simply hope you will remember me. After speaking, Qingyu bowed to everyone. Without giving the reporters any time to ask any questions, she turned around and left. The reporters on set continued to film in the drizzle. Towards Qingyu's sudden action, they all had their own opinions. Dear viewers, this is the Entertainment Evening News. According to the latest news from our entertainment reporters, Star King's model, Qingyu, will announce her departure from the entertainment industry at 10 p.m. tonight at the entrance of her villa. On the screen, Qingyu looked haggard and spoke succinctly. As soon as she announced her departure from the industry, she quickly left the reporter's line of sight. But why would a model suddenly announce her departure from the industry? At last night's award ceremony, Hairue's model, Tongning, was pushed off the stage by a stranger and suffered a serious injury. Her manager, who is also the CEO of Hairue, refused to believe it was an accident and insisted that the mastermind of the incident step out and explain themselves. From what we understand, Qingyu insulted Tongning multiple times at the awards ceremony. As a result, no one can tell why Qingyu announced her departure from the industry. According to the reporters, after Tongning was injured, she did not pursue the matter. Instead, she endured the pain until the awards ceremony ended. However, because her injury was too serious, her manager was furious. From this, we can see that no matter what a person's identity is, they should hold on to their bottom line. Otherwise, they would be harming themselves and others. Chapter 243. After watching the news, Mo Ting turned off the TV. However, he was not satisfied with the way Qingyu had handled the situation. She simply announced her retreat from the industry and had no intention of apologizing to Tongning. Tongning could sense her husband's anger. Seeing he was about to make a phone call to Lu Che, she immediately reached out her hand and held him back. That's enough. Qingyu is such a proud and arrogant person. Destroying her career is worse than killing her. Plus, what's the point of forcing her to apologize to me? Don't waste your energy on someone like that. Ting, you need to get some rest. Mo Ting turned his head and looked at Tongning. Seeing her patting the spot beside him, he couldn't reject her, so he lay down and gently wrapped his arms around her. I just feel bad for you. Tongning squeezed Mo Ting's shoulder and noticed his muscles had tensed up. She quickly explained, Look, the intensity of your work is too much. Your body is already reminding you to get some rest. Mo Ting did not say a word as he lay down with Tongning in his arms. He then placed his lips on her forehead and closed his eyes. I already have the best manager, so I really don't care about someone like Qingyu. Don't waste your precious time on someone like her. Okay. Mo Ting nodded his head with his eyes closed. While Tongning was resting, Longjie treated it like a long vacation. Tongning was being taken care of meticulously by Mo Ting, so there was no need for her to worry. Bored to death, Longjie decided to go to Hairue to kill some time with Lu Che. However, just as she arrived at Lu Che's office, she overheard him yelling at his subordinates. Longjie leaned against the door frame and did not enter. It wasn't until Lu Che's secretary came out crying that Longjie shook her head and pushed open the door. She then said to Lu Che, The way you scold people isn't right. You should be gentler to girls. How can you make them cry? Lu Che closed the documents. He was obviously still angry. This was the first time Long Jie had seen Lu Che angry. She discovered when he was holding it in. He looked very cute. Even his ears were red. Tell sis, how many people have you made cry? Do you have 10? Lu Che lifted his head and looked at Long Jie with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He looked at Long Jie and felt goosebumps. You. Why are you looking at me like this? At least, I've never made you cry. After hearing these words, Long Jie froze for a moment. She suddenly realized she had almost misunderstood. Her heart began to race, but when she thought about it, with Lu Che's EQ, he couldn't have expressed any deeper meaning. He simply meant she didn't seem like a woman. Long Jie let out a gentle laugh, feeling a little silly as she mumbled. I almost believed you. What? Long Jie lifted her head and smiled brightly at Lu Che. Because I have a strong heart. Alright, tell me the reason why you reprimanded others. I don't like people casually entering my home, so when I asked my secretary to get some documents, she helped me clean up the room. Lu Che explained with his head lowered. He was extremely engrossed in dealing with the documents with bright eyes and eyebrows. Long Jie heard this. His heart started pounding again. She had been to Lu Che's home before and even spent a night there. But at that time, Lu Che did not say anything. Actually, your home can be quite messy at times. Long Jie said awkwardly. Afterwards, she said something that even she didn't expect. Since I have some free time these few days, why don't I help you clean up? After speaking, Long Jie felt like biting off her tongue. Meanwhile, Lu Che's head was buried in his documents. After a few seconds of silence, Lu Che suddenly lifted his head and handed the keys on the table to Long Jie. Okay. Long Jie's face suddenly turned red, because she didn't know if Lu Che was thinking the same thing as her. If he wasn't and she pointed it out, what would she do if they couldn't even be friends? So Long Jie, with the confidence that she thought was special in Lu Che's heart, grabbed the keys and headed to Lu Che's home. On the surface, the two were still engaged. Yet, she was currently helping Lu Che clean up his home. What did this mean? Long Jie tidied up Lu Che's room and washed all his dirty clothes, including his socks and underwear. As she stood in front of the washing machine, Long Jie furrowed her brows. She felt if she didn't get over it soon, she would lose control of her feelings for Lu Che and fall deeper and deeper into his dangerous relationship. Half an hour later, Lu Che drove home. During this period of time, Mo Ting needed to take care of Tongning, so his workload was extremely heavy. When he opened the door, he saw Long Jie doing the laundry. Without hesitation, he walked straight into the bedroom and lay down on the bed. Long Jie looked at Lu Che awkwardly as he lay on the bed. Did he not realize that there was someone else in his home? Long Jie felt it was time for Lu Che to take a shower and get some rest. So, she was about to say goodbye to him before heading home. However, just as Long Jie spoke, Lu Che's muffled voice drifted through the pillow. I haven't eaten yet. I'm hungry. Long Jie temporarily controlled her thoughts and continued to cook for Lu Che. However, by the time she was done, Lu Che had already fallen asleep on the bed. Long Jie gently turned around, retrieved her keys and placed them on the table. However, this slight movement woke Lu Che up. He sat up and turned to look at Long Jie. You can take the keys with you. Long Jie? During this period of time, I've been too busy. It's easy for me to turn the house into a doghouse. I don't trust other people. Hearing this, Long Jie smiled. Hurry and get up to eat. You can sleep after you've eaten. Lu Che reacted for a few seconds before climbing out of bed. He watched as Long Jie left. It wasn't until her silhouette was blocked by a door that Lu Che leaned against it and clutched his heart. You want her to stay a little longer? What's going on? It seemed, not only would he need to make more dirty clothes tomorrow, he would also need to break the pipes and burn the fuse. Lu Che secretly planned in his heart. Of course, Lu Che wasn't the only one that thought this way. Although Long Jie was a woman, when she met a man she liked, she would definitely want to stay with him for a little longer. Looking at the sparkling keys in her hand, Long Jie suddenly felt that there was still a lot of beauty in life that was worth holding on to. Lu Che. Lu Che. Why must you torment me like this? Long Jie pulled out her own keys and opened the car door. However, just as she climbed in, She received another phone call from Lu Che. I have a document that I can't find. Where did you put it when you were packing? It's an important document, it's a blue one. I placed it on the bookshelf, in the second cupboard on the third row. No, you came back to look for it. Chapter 244. Long Jie looked at her phone in a daze for a few seconds. After backing out of the car, she returned to Lu Che's apartment. This time, she didn't need to open the door for him. Lu Che had already opened it for her. Long Jie pushed the door open and walked in. She discovered Lu Che had messed up his study room. Big bro, are you looking for documents? Are you raiding his house? Long Jie was a little shocked as she knelt on the floor looking for Lu Che's blue folder. I can't help it, it's too important. Lu Che replied as he awkwardly leaned against the desk and tilted his head. Okay, you can leave first. I'll have a look. Long Jie waved her hand helplessly. Do you normally look for documents like this? Who's going to clean it up for you? Lu Che did not respond as he quickly slipped away. What a joke. He had been by Emoting's side for a long time. If he used this method of looking for documents, he would have been fired 100 times over. However, he felt this way, he could keep Long Jie around a little longer. After leaving the study room, Lu Che leaned against the cold wall to calm himself down. He didn't know why he did what he did. Long Jie resigned to her fate as she tidied up Lu Che's study room again. But when she thought about it, Lu Che's working ability wasn't a problem. In fact, he was capable and meticulous. Why would an assistant like him leave such an important document on the table? Plus, amongst Lu Che's pile of documents, it should be easy to find a blue folder. Did he really need to move everything off the bookshelf? Plus, a normal person like her, if she messed up the study room while looking for something, she would have tidied it up herself. She would never think of troubling someone else. Could it be? He wants to keep me around a little longer? Long Jie thought to herself. But according to Lu Che's EQ, Long Jie was a little confused by Lu Che's actions. As she tidied up, her thoughts ran wild. But she was on the highest shelf. Although Long Jie wasn't short, it was still a little difficult for her to stand on her feet. However, at this time, Lu Che reached out from behind her and gently pushed a stack of documents away. Long Jie turned around and almost bumped into Lu Che. Long Jie felt a little awkward. Just as she was about to push Lu Che away, he placed one hand on the bookshelf and said, It's snowing outside again, and it's quite heavy. Don't drive home tonight. What do you mean? Long Jie suddenly couldn't hold it in any longer. Mainly, her heart was beating so fast it felt like it was about to jump out of her chest. She couldn't guarantee that if Lu Che was to overstep his boundaries, she wouldn't just pounce on him. It's really snowing. Who asked you about this? Long Jie was on the verge of tears. She really wanted to get straight to the point. If she missed this opportunity, she didn't know when she would get the chance again. But what if she was just imagining things? Do you know that you are a single man and I am a single woman? I don't know. Aren't you my fiancé? What was an instant kill? Long Jie felt Lu Che had done it. When a person with a negative EQ suddenly said such words, it would really give you goosebumps all over your body. Isn't that just a cover-up? Long Jie started to stutter as a thin layer of sweat formed on her face. It was obviously the middle of winter. Lu Che did not say a word, but he did something shocking. He leaned over and gave Long Jie a gentle peck on the cheek. In that instant, Long Jie felt like her soul was about to leave her body. I just don't want you to go. Oh God. At this moment, Long Jie felt like her heart was about to explode. She was overwhelmed with joy. So, she also did something shocking. She hooked her arms around Lu Che's neck. Why don't you want me to go? Because I don't want to. I even thought of a lot of excuses. I even thought of burning a fuse and breaking a water pipe. Lu Che said as he tilted his head and pointed outside the study room. Long Jie let out a laugh. It's not like I know how to fix a fuse. By breaking a water pipe, are you trying to flood the house? Lu Che lowered his head shyly. But after a few seconds, he suddenly lifted his head and said to Long Jie, I want to hug you. Long Jie's face blushed. Under the illumination of the lights, her face looked particularly alluring. She took a step forward and leaned into Lu Che's embrace. Lu Che was actually quite nervous, but he still reached out and hugged Longjia. In fact, he did not hold back at all. Although Longjia felt pain, it was a sweet pain. So, she let Lu Che hug her as they listened to each other's heartbeats. Tonight, we won't be leaving, right? It's snowing quite heavily outside. Longjia's expression changed as she said anxiously, I refuse to have sex before marriage. A man's if I don't want to go in, I'll just rub against you is not credible. Lu Che. Longjia realized she was being too direct, so she quickly lowered her head and explained, That. I just want to look at you. Lu Che suddenly replied. Lu Che suddenly said, Just like the night I had a fever, we slept on the sofa. Longjia realized she had misinterpreted Lu Che's words as her face turned even redder. The couple tidied up the study room and returned to the guest room's sofa hand in hand. That night, the heater was on. Lu Che watched as Longjia fell asleep, and suddenly let out a gentle laugh. That was it was good. That night, Longjia had a dream. The dream was so beautiful that she didn't want to wake up. She simply wanted to be with Lu Che forever. The next morning, Lu Che and Longjia arrived at Hyatt Regency together. Seeing the expressions on their faces, Tongning noticed Longjia's shyness and immediately understood. If you have good news, why didn't you share it as soon as possible? Longjia sat beside Tongning with a relaxed smile. I didn't have the time last night. Are you really together this time? Tongning asked with uncertainty. Aha. Longjia nodded. We are all in this industry. It's not easy to meet someone we like. Although I still feel a little inferior, I will try my best to overcome it. It's just a 2-year difference. Who cares about that now? Plus my figure. What's so difficult about that? After eating with me for a while, I guarantee you will turn back into a graceful lady. Longjia thought back to Tongning's nutritious meals. She had never seen her eat noodles or rice. Plus, she exercised a lot, so she managed to maintain her current figure. But it had to be said, Tongning's figure was perfect. When that time comes, you won't have to worry about not being a good match for Lu Che, right? Lu Che stood outside the door and overheard the two talking about him. Of course, he felt a little uncomfortable, so he decided to look for the president first. Emoting was still in his office. After the video call ended, he tilted his head and looked at Lu Che. Have you sorted out the list of programs I asked you to yesterday? Aha. Lu Che handed over the information. Contact the TV station and tell Tongning to agree to go on super interview in 10 days, Emoting said. Is it about the madam's waist injury? Go ahead, I know what I'm doing. Emoting replied straightforwardly. This is currently the best talk show in the country. It will help Tongning establish herself as a supermodel. Chapter 245. For a celebrity to appear on Super Interview, their popularity, ability and reputation in the industry were all supported by a large amount of data. And the current Tongning had reached the standard of being two-faced in every aspect. Most importantly, this was an invitation from Super Interview. Because Tongning's current popularity far exceeded that of a popular actress or actor. Although Tongning's waist injury would take more than 10 days to recover, the entire interview was an hour long and did not require her to make any intense movements. So it wasn't too much of a burden for her. 2 days later, Tongning was barely able to get out of bed. As she sat in the living room watching TV, she saw a piece of news. In the wee hours of yesterday, our reporter received news that the once famous model, Qin Yu, had booked a hotel room with a famous director in the film and television industry not even 3 days after announcing her retirement from the industry. In the end, an indecent 3P video was posted online, and the famous director was found out to be a swindler. A famous model was reduced to a prostitute and in the end, ended up with a tragic ending. Not long after, our reporter confirmed with the hospital that Qin Yu had attempted suicide and is currently recovering in hospital. From the photos taken by our reporter, Qin Yu's appearance has changed drastically. She looks like a withered corpse. It's a terrible sight to behold. Serves her right. Long Jie scolded as she sat beside Tongning. However, this Qin Yu must have taken things too hard. She was obviously digging her own grave. Tongning leaned against the pillow. It was hard to tell what she was thinking about, but her expression was unusually calm. Tongning did not say anything, but it didn't mean the netizens wouldn't guess. I heard from a friend in the industry that Hai Rui was too ruthless and forced Qin Yu onto a path of no return. I don't think Hai Rui did anything wrong. By announcing her retirement, Qin Yu has already admitted that she was the culprit that hurt Tongning. The stage was so high, if Tongning had rolled off like that, it would be a miracle if she didn't lose her life. According to Hai Rui's style, would they just let it go like that? Has Qin Yu ever stepped out to apologize for her actions? Exactly, Hai Rui was ruthless, but they didn't force Qin Yu to climb into their bed. If she wanted to retire, she should have done it cleanly. Who would have cared about her? No matter what, Hai Rui's people are not to be messed with. From now on, we need to make sure to avoid them. Especially if we see Tongning, we need to avoid her. Her manager is too powerful. Even an industry outsider like me is afraid. From now on, who would dare to have any ideas about Tongning? Long Jie looked at the comments and then glanced at Tongning. She had a rough idea of what had happened with Qin Yu. Tongning, boss has only just announced his manager, and there are already people causing trouble for you. Boss had to do this to intimidate them. Plus, boss didn't force Qin Yu. Do you think I'm a saint? Tongning suddenly laughed. Of course I know why Ting is doing this. I almost forgot the two of you are both black-bellied. Long Jie realized her worries were unnecessary. She was afraid Tongning would think Mo Ting was ruthless. However, just by looking at the netizens' comments, it was obvious that Qin Yu had brought this upon herself. As for Tongning, would she pity someone who had lost her sense of self? He had to bear the consequences of his choices. Even if you managed to avoid it now, retribution would follow you like a shadow for decades to come. It wasn't that he didn't want to, it was just that it wasn't time yet. Don't talk about these unhappy things. Let it all go. Hurry up and prepare for super interview. There's nothing to prepare. Tongning laughed. It's obvious they are concerned about my relationship with Mo Ting, and want to dig up some explosive news. News like this is a selling point no matter where you go. Who told you to have such a powerful manager? Long Jie couldn't help but let out a laugh. She then looked down at the time on her watch. I have dinner plans with Lu Che. Is it okay for you to return to the bedroom? I'll wait for Ting to come home. Tongning nodded. Ever since Long Jie started dating, she had been full of energy every day. It was hard to tell that she was nearly 30 years old. However, Tongning was a little curious about the way she interacted with Lu Che. 7 p.m. Mo Ting returned home from Hai Rui. Seeing Tongning lying on the sofa under the yellow lights, he carefully approached her and leaned over to place a kiss on her forehead. Tongning opened her eyes. Seeing Mo Ting's handsome face, she smiled gently and sat up. You're home? Why didn't you sleep in the room? The living room will catch a cold. Lying down is boring. Tongning replied helplessly. Mo Ting nodded his head as he pulled out the documents for super interview from his folder. As Tongning looked through them, her expression changed a little. Super interview included an introduction to Tongning's childhood and family background. Mo Ting noticed the change in Tongning's expression, so he retrieved the documents from her hands and said, If you don't want to talk about it, I'll ask the producers to change the panel. Tongning thought for a moment, and held on to Mo Ting's warm hand. She looked into his eyes and said, The program definitely can't be shown. The Tang family don't like the entertainment industry. They think entering this industry is a waste. If you can't show it, then don't show it. But I want to tell you something. Tongning shook Missouri Ting's left hand. She felt it was time to let Mo Ting know about her family's situation. Mo Ting felt it was going to be a long story, so he wrapped his arm around Tongning and waited for her to slowly tell him. Yes, I am a part of the Tang family. But I am more like a clown. My mother was my father's second wife. In reality, she was a mistress. My father's first wife had 3 children. From a young age, I was the demon that took everything from them. Yet grandfather had high hopes for me. I felt guilty and didn't want to enter the family business. So, I chose to become a model and broke grandfather's heart. At first, grandfather hated me. But ever since I got together with Han Yufan, he kicked me out of the Tang family. He felt I was a disgrace to the family. After hearing Tang Ning's words, Emo Ting suddenly hugged her tightly. The Tang family was a legend in the perfume industry. But at the same time, they couldn't escape from the struggles of the family. So I am someone that has been abandoned by my family. How could you be someone that has been abandoned? You have me. Emo Ting's heart ached. When Tang Ning first debuted, she wasn't even 18 years old. All these years she had been on her own and had even met the jerk, Han Yufan. Just like that, 9 years of her youth had been wasted. We won't be a part of the Tang family. We won't do it. We won't even mention it. I haven't seen my mother in a few years. Tang Ning mumbled. Sometimes I hate her. In order to cling on to the rich and powerful. Sometimes she makes me feel ashamed of myself. That's why, after finding out about Han Yufan and Mo Euro, I suddenly became so ruthless. Chapter 246. Why? Do you have to ruin someone else's happiness? This was the first time Tang Ning had told Mo Ting about her family's situation since they got married. It also cleared up one of Mo Ting's doubts. Tang Ning had been in trouble so many times, yet the Tang family had never made an appearance. Not only did they not help her, they didn't even say a simple word of support. Don't even think about it. After marrying me, you are now part of the Mo family and have nothing to do with the Tang family. Mo Ting hugged Tang Ning and kissed her from the tip of her nose to her collarbone. He kissed her from the tip of her nose to her collarbone. It was a silent yet effective way of comforting her. From now on, I will take you to see the Mo family and wait for you to prepare yourself. After hearing Tang Ning's words, Mo Ting finally realized how serious Tang Ning's lack of a sense of security was. Because of her complicated family relationship. Okay, Tang Ning nodded her head. As the Tang family was involved, Mo Ting discussed with the television station and decided to skip over Tang Ning's childhood and record her from the moment she debuted. This was also an important turning point in her life. In reality, the television station really wanted to dig into this century-old perfume family. But after discussing with Mo Ting, they decided it wasn't a good idea to take the risk. Actually, simply using Tang Ning and Mo Ting's relationship as a selling point was already enough to guarantee a high viewership. There was no need to create trouble for himself. After the content was finalized, all that was left was to wait for Tang Ning's recovery. Apart from regular checkups from the doctor, with Mo Ting's help, Tang Ning was soon able to do some simple exercises. However, they couldn't be too intense. Seeing Tang Ning recover better and better, Mo Ting felt more confident about Super Interview. The night before Super Interview, Tang Ning finished her exercises and spoke to Hu Jingjing on the phone. You will be going on the show tomorrow. Is your waist better? Don't worry, it's more than enough to handle one show. Tang Ning replied as she helped Mo Ting wipe his sweat. Did you hear about Jun Mani's return tomorrow? Hu Jingjing was at home painting her nails as she placed her phone on speaker. In the past, my relationship with Jun Mani wasn't bad. But over the years, as her international status has increased and she has established her own clothing brand, we have drifted further and further apart. Jun Mani has now been named a national treasure model, because President Mo has spent a lot of effort to train her to suppress Star King. Are you telling me that my husband has something to do with her? Tang Ning asked as she looked at Mo Ting and Hu Jingjing. From the moment I joined Hai Rui, you have been the only woman by President Mo's side. However, Jun Mani spends most of her time overseas, so we don't know if she is still on the same side as Hai Rui. Most importantly, she is a national treasure, yet President Mo has become your manager. Since I'm already here, I might as well take things as they come. Tang Ning did not avoid the topic as she hung up the phone. At this time, the half-naked Mo Ting wrapped his arm around her shoulder and pulled her into his embrace. Is it because I haven't taught you a lesson for so long that I'm getting a little carried away? Tang Ning took the opportunity to hook her arm around Mo Ting's sweaty neck and smiled. Have you never thought about being the manager of a national treasure model? Mo Ting held onto Tong Ning's face with one hand and pinched her chin. If you want me to be your manager, you need to sleep with me first. As long as you're willing. But I only want to sleep with you. Mo Ting interrupted as he wrapped his arms around her body and pulled her closer to him. In reality, both of them were covered in sweat, but because of this, Tong Ning was even more dazzled by Mo Ting's masculine scent. Not long after, she heard Mo Ting ask in a deep voice, "Can your waist still be used? Madam, you've already made me a monk for half a month." "It hurts." Tong Ning gasped. Hearing the word hurts, the lust in Mo Ting's eyes lessened a little. He wanted to let go of Tong Ning, but Tong Ning wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. "I was just teasing you, as long as you don't get too excited." Mo Ting turned around and carried her out of the gym. After returning to the bedroom, he didn't even have a shower as he placed Tong Ning on the bed and sat on top of her. A moment later, Tong Ning heard a tearing sound in her ears. Mo Ting directly tore off her sports bra and leaned over to kiss her on the lips. She had endured for too long, and desired for too long. Tong Ning suddenly felt she couldn't keep up with Mo Ting's passion. In the end, for the first time, she let down her expectations and fainted from exhaustion. Super interview. This was Tong Ning's first public appearance since her injury. It was also Mo Ting's first event after announcing that he was her manager. 7 p.m. Mo Ting first appeared in the waiting room of the television station with Tong Ning for a short interview. However, because of Mo Ting's strict control, the questions that the reporters could ask were limited. It was so narrow that Tong Ning's heart ached for the reporters. But there was nothing she could do. Who told her manager to be so strict? The reporters couldn't help but cry as they begged Tong Ning in private. "Can you answer a few more questions? Tong Ning, I really like you. I don't want to gossip. I just want to know the answers that I want to know." Tong Ning couldn't help but laugh as she pointed to Mo Ting. "You want to ask him?" As if the reporters would dare to ask. No matter where Mo Ting stood, who wouldn't be afraid of their boss? Afterwards, Mo Ting gestured to Tong Ning with his eyes that the interview was about to begin. Tong Ning stood up with a smile. After shaking hands with the reporters, she walked over to Mo Ting's side. The reporter watched as the two walked away one after another. She couldn't help but snap a photo of their backs and post it online. She was a little infatuated. Is there still a manager like them in this world? I beg of you. After so many days of peace and quiet, the reporters and fans had already released their old stories about Tong Ning and Mo Ting. So, as soon as they saw the photo, they went crazy. "Oh God, Tong Ning is so cute and helpless. It's been so long since I've seen Tong Ning on camera. Whoa, please show me some dog food. Come, let's add a photo to the photo." Tong Ning said, "Tonight, we will definitely be asked about gossip." Big Boss replied, "Leave it all to me." So sweet. I'm so looking forward to super interview. The host needs to work hard and dig out some useful gossip to satisfy our fans' racing hearts. If we can give Big Boss a few shots during the interview, that would be perfect. His face is so handsome. Tong Ning, you are my goal in life. I like our advanced mathematics teacher, and I want to win him over. You have given me the courage to make him my personal advanced mathematics teacher. I want to give him a demonstration every day. I can't be more amazing. The commenter above is so bold and wild. But, I also want to win over my personal trainer. Chapter 247. Hello everyone, welcome to this week's super interview. I am your host Lin Ning. As the host's opening words rang out, Tong Ning, who was preparing backstage, felt a little nervous. Today she was wearing a simple black A-line dress. Her soft black hair was tied into a loose ponytail, and her face was covered in heavy makeup. She looked even prettier and more energetic. Because of her waist injury, Mo Ting didn't allow her to wear high heels, do any difficult movements or stand for too long. Tong Ning felt a little helpless. Last night, she didn't know who had tortured her to the point of fainting. Let us welcome the supermodel Tong Ning. Hearing the host's voice, Tong Ning prepared to go on stage. However, Emoting stretched out his hand and patted her on the head. I'll just look at you like this. I won't be going anywhere, don't be nervous. Tongning nodded her head. In reality, she thought to herself, without Emoting around, she wasn't as nervous. Afterwards, Tongning entered the recording studio and was invited by the host to sit on the soft sofa. After a simple greeting to the audience, the host asked Tongning about her injury. How's your waist injury? Let me ask this question first in case the fans get worried. Tongning turned to face the audience and smiled. I'm recovering well. Apart from a few intense exercises, I'm fine. The host held her chin in her hand and scanned Tongning from head to toe. But you've maintained your figure well. What's your secret to maintaining your figure? Working out and dieting, that's the most scientific method, Tongning replied in seriousness. Okay, since Tongning's body has recovered, let us begin today's super interview. We are a very humane program. We definitely won't make things difficult for our guests. The host smiled mischievously at Tongning. But in every segment, we will be inserting 3 rather spicy questions. Tongning, you better be prepared to take them on. Before we start the interview, let's start with a question. Let's show the question board. After saying that, the host took out a small blackboard from the side of the chair and tore open the first question on the blackboard. As soon as this question was revealed, the fans in the studio began to get excited. The host shrugged his shoulders and explained, this question was not prepared by me. It was drawn from a list of questions from the fans. In that case, Tongning, what do you think is the perfect manager? Tongning was put in a difficult position. She revealed a helpless expression before replying sincerely, Emoting is perfect. Ah! The fans in the stadium screamed. They originally thought Tongning was going to play Tai Chi, but in the end, she directly displayed her affection, causing the hearts of Sue's fans to explode. The host was satisfied with the atmosphere. In all her years of hosting Super Interview, it was rare that she didn't have to personally control the atmosphere. As long as she made good use of Tongning and Emoting's strengths, her viewership ratings would definitely explode. Okay, I'll give you a candy first. Now let's get down to business. The production team has prepared a few keywords in advance. Let's start with these keywords to unlock Tongning's inner thoughts. The first keyword is 9 years. How do you feel when you see this? Tongning thought for a moment before replying. I died once and came back to life. Can you explain in detail? The career of a model is actually similar to that of an actor. It is very short. But the scariest thing is, most people look at the profession with a biased lens. When they think of a model, they usually associate it with young models, unlicensed models, and dirty words like sex deals. Of course, this is a big picture. From my perspective, a model is one that leads everyone to discover beauty. So in my 9 years in the industry, there have been ups and downs and I have encountered all sorts of situations. But I have always believed that I am doing a job that is related to beauty. So I will persevere. Even after 90 years, as long as I can still stand on the runway, I will still choose to wear beautiful clothes. As for the reason why I died once, it was because I experienced the lowest point in my life. When everything you say and do is wrong, you will realize that the world is big and there is no place for you. But you still need to live on. So, pick up your dreams and continue living on. The host glanced at Tongning and led the crowd to give her a round of applause. Tongning, you are a very understanding person. I am. So, how did you react when you were slandered? Were you angry or impatient? I am relatively calm, Tongning laughed before she explained. Because I know that I live a positive and healthy life. The anti-fans may be tricked by external factors for a while, but they won't be tricked forever. One day, they will discover how I live my life and understand what I want to convey. That's all I need to know. I also think you have a healthy mentality. So, you don't need to worry about the malicious attacks. The host nodded his head before he suddenly pulled out the second question from the blackboard, catching everyone off guard. I love moments like this. It feels so good to torment the guests. Come, answer the second question. Tell us about your relationship with Emoting. This time, The fans not only screamed, they even covered their mouths and screamed in an exaggerated manner. Meanwhile, fans online began to leave comments on Super Interview's official website, praising the crew for being so considerate and knowing exactly what the fans wanted to know. I saw Tongning in a daze. Haha. Let's wait and see how Tongning responds. Io, how many people are watching the live broadcast? I'm about to explode. Tongning, please tell us the truth. Tell us the truth. This time, Tongning also lowered her head and laughed. A helpless expression once again crept onto her face. Why would there be such a sharp question? Let me clarify once again, I didn't ask this question. It was asked by the fans. Tongning couldn't help but laugh. She then returned to her normal expression and replied, My manager said I can't answer this question. What did the manager say? The host asked. Afterwards, Tongning pointed towards the backstage. As expected, Mo Ting crossed his arms in front of him. The host understood and quickly tried to smooth things over. I've seen everything. Her manager is defying the heavens and waiting backstage. It's a bit difficult for me to make a move. So, you guys should ask her yourself. Oh God, she's backstage. Can you cut a shot of Boss Missouri? Manager, please come on stage. Same frame. Chapter 248. In the same frame. How was this possible? The host knew how to control his emotions as he quickly turned everyone's attention back to him. Stop. This is a serious talk show, not a bit of gossip. So, let's get back to the topic and talk about the second key point. Announce your comeback. At that time, Tianyi Entertainment accepted you into an event for a no-name product. Because of this, you were scolded quite a bit. How did you feel at that time? I declared war on myself. Tongning replied succinctly. That was when I picked up my dreams. The host looked at Tongning and studied her carefully. He then rubbed his chin and said, Tongning, I've realized you are actually a person with a strong personality. Really? Tongning asked with a smile. So can you share with us your life motto? Tongning had been sitting for too long and her back was a little uncomfortable, so she shifted a little before replying. Actually, I don't have a motto in life. I am a person that is either black or white. As long as I feel that something is right, I will give it my all regardless of the consequences. You seem to be very calm and rational when things go wrong. Do you cry often? What kind of situation do you cry about? When a lover, friend, or family member gets hurt, I cry. But when it comes to my career, I don't usually cry because things are different from the human heart. Things always have a solution, but the human heart is a very strange thing. The host nodded his head and asked with a smile, Are you a person that likes to control others? I'm not. Personality is the easiest way to differentiate between people. Only by interacting with different people can your world become more colorful. Then, are you a person that likes to be controlled? As the host asked this question, it was obvious he was trying to direct the audience. Of course, the fans quickly understood and started another round of screaming. But Tongning was still as smooth as ever and did not let a single thing slip through her fingers. If someone cares about you, they will use twice as much effort to protect your life. The simpler your life is, the more tired the people around you are. If you don't believe me, take a look around you. That's why I am a person that likes to give and take, equally. Because of Tongning's serious response, some of the couple fans calmed down and listened to the interview in earnest. There were quite a few people in the room that were 26 or older. After hearing Tongning's response, they were all moved. In fact, it was hard to believe that a 26-year-old woman would say something like this. She seemed to have seen through life, but she did not see through it. During this short 50-minute interview, not only did the fans get to eat the dog food they craved, they also gained a deeper understanding of Tongning. So she had depth. I've asked too many questions today. From the exciting Oriental trend to LM's Lingfeng incident, Tongning has always been able to turn danger into safety and prove herself. So, let me ask you two more questions. The first is about the day you fell off the stage. It must have been quite serious. Why didn't you immediately seek medical attention? In reality, compared to the questions from the fans, the host's random questions were the ones that gave Tongning a headache. During this time, because Tongning touched her arm, Ting immediately instructed the staff to bring over a thin blanket. Others may not have seen it, but from the perspective of the host he saw it. So she asked in surprise, "Is it a little cold?" Tongning nodded her head, a little embarrassed, a little. Host. If one ate too much of this dog food, it would make them want to fall in love. Tongning unwrapped the blanket and placed it over her leg before replying, "Actually, at the time, I didn't feel much pain. I just wanted to hold on for as long as I could." Last question, it could be a critical hit. Make sure you handle it well. Do you live with President Mo? The fans' expectations were raised higher and higher, because the host had arranged the questions in a very professional manner. The further they went, the bolder and sharper the questions became. As for Tongning's answers, she went from letting go at the beginning to practicing Tai Chi on the surface. It seemed like she was showing off her dog food, but in reality, she was giving regular answers. For example, the last question. President Mo and I both live at Hyatt Regency. She expanded the scope of her interview from one villa to an entire estate. The fans had no way of verifying this because the security at Hyatt Regency was extremely tight. Okay, I'm very happy to have invited Tongning to our super interview today. I'm sure everyone will be able to gain a deeper understanding of the profession of modeling and our outstanding Tongning. That's all for today's show. See you next time. After speaking, the host stood up and took a photo with Tongning. Afterwards, Tongning was escorted backstage by the staff and returned to Ting. The ratings for this episode are going to explode. Ting pulled out a jacket and wrapped it around her body. The questions about our relationship have been asked throughout the entire interview. Tongning replied calmly. You don't like it? Ting escorted her out of the television station. You used to hide your life behind the scenes, but because of me, you are now being mentioned in all sorts of ways and discussed in all sorts of ways. I don't want that. So she simply cooperated with the host at the beginning. She knew the first questions would be relatively easy to answer, but afterwards her lips would become tighter. I can be in front of the stage or behind the scenes, as long as you need me. Tongning sat in the van and looked at Ting calmly. Ting understood what she was thinking, so he wrapped his arm around her and said, "From now on, we won't be accepting interviews anymore. Interviews will only be related to our profession. I don't want to rest anymore. From tomorrow onwards, help me take on jobs. Manager Mo, I need to work even harder." Okay. Ting couldn't reject any of Tongning's requests, so he placed her on his lap as a pillow. "Sleep for a bit, we'll be home soon." 10 p.m. Zhenmani's flight landed at Beijing Airport. This rumored national treasure model was 24 years old. She had a full chest, a sexy bottom and a sexy figure. In the past, she had appeared on multiple Victoria's Secret shows, and was also a top luxury brand, Haute Couture. Afterwards, she single-handedly created her own clothing brand, and was a legendary existence in the modeling industry. Not only that, this model had a flamboyant personality and was crazy about black and rock music. Whenever her fans took photos of her on the streets, she would mostly wear black. However, she didn't make it seem repetitive. This was a very strange phenomenon. After leaving the airport, Zhenmani removed her glasses and boarded the Maybach that her assistant had arranged for her. In the end, she saw the announcement that Ting had become Tongning's manager. Chapter 249. Manny, what is President Mo thinking? Zhenmani's manager asked curiously. Where did this wild phoenix come from? I can't believe she managed to get President Mo to personally become her manager. In the past, President Mo didn't even care about you. How would I know? You've helped Hai Rui suppress Star King for so many years. Don't tell me President Mo hasn't noticed? You're annoying. Stop talking. Zhenmani put on her earphones, crossed her arms and closed her eyes. You could have left Hai Rui a long time ago. Manny, what else can Hai Rui give you? You are already at the top. If you don't shut up, Then get out of the car right now. Jinmani did not open her eyes. She was frustrated. Apart from Mo Ting, was there another reason why she refused to leave Hai Rui? In the past, she had never heard of any scandals involving Mo Ting. So, she was reassured that it wasn't her or anyone else. But now, Tongning had suddenly appeared. Not only that, Tongning had gained the favor of the entire Hai Rui, especially Mo Ting. If she were to stay overseas for another year or so, would there be no place for her in Hai Rui? I found some information on Tongning. Do you want to see it? Just a moment ago, she went on super interview. But the entire time, she was spending money on President Mo. Isn't a woman like this a bit dangerous? Jinmani finally opened her eyes and received the laptop from her manager. However, she did not have the patience to look into everything about Tongning. So she simply glanced at it briefly before returning it to her manager, Charlene. In this flashy industry, no one could afford to waste their youth. So finding a stable backing was something that everyone in the industry was thinking about. Mo Ting was the person that every woman chased after. This was not wrong. However, some people were far away from him, while others were close. Jinmani was the closest person to Mo Ting in Hai Rui. But it was only today that she realized, no matter how high she climbed and no matter how much she achieved, she and Mo Ting could never be in the same world. The fear in her heart made her feel helpless. Manny, Hu Jingjing has a phone call. I'm not picking it up. But rumor has it that Hu Jingjing and Tongning have a good relationship, Charlene explained. Jinmani took a deep breath and adjusted her emotions before she picked up the phone and spoke to Hu Jingjing. Jinmani speaking. Have you returned to China today? Do you want to get together later? Hu Jingjing suggested. I haven't seen you in almost half a year. The last time I saw you was at a fashion show overseas. I don't feel like gathering. I'm a little tired. Jinmani rejected straightforwardly. However, after thinking for a moment, she stood up and asked Hu Jingjing. What's the deal with Tongning? Where did it come from? Why did President Mo become her manager? The reason why Hu Jingjing made this phone call was not to invite Jinmani for dinner. She simply wanted to test Jinmani's attitude. For a person who had left Hai Rui, was his heart still with the big family? As expected, Jinmani was obviously unhappy with Tongning's situation. This is President Mo's business, how would I know? Hu Jingjing pushed all the blame onto Mo Ting, refusing to mention a single word about Tongning in front of Jinmani. Then I'll hang up. I'll go home and rest first. Hu Jingjing put down her phone. She suddenly felt a little worried about Tongning. All these years, Jinmani had been a proud existence in Hai Rui. Now that Tongning had suddenly appeared and threatened her position, of course she wouldn't be satisfied, even though Hai Rui was united. Jinmani rarely shared her heart with others. Whether or not she would cause trouble for Tongning was out of her control. Manny, if you feel like your position is being threatened by staying in Hai Rui, then we can jump ship to Star King, her manager suggested. Jinmani crossed her arms and glared at her as she asked angrily, Are you a spy sent by Star King? Charlene was speechless and did not say another word. Was she being too obvious? Actually, Jinmani wasn't stupid. She was simply too flamboyant, because that was her personality. So, after hearing her manager's suggestion, she began to suspect. I feel like you've been trying to convince me to jump ship. Manny, you're overthinking things. I simply feel bad for you. Even if you were to be her personal manager, it should be you, her manager quickly explained. I need to find a way to find out what's going on. Charlene put away her laptop and looked out the window. According to Jinmani's temper, if she wanted to ignite her, it would be a piece of cake. Above all, although Jinmani had a high status, Tongning was currently the one who was harvesting the popularity. If the two of them were to be compared, Tongning might not necessarily lose. If Jinmani were to see this, how would she feel? Midnight. Charlene finally dragged her exhausted body back to her apartment. But as soon as she stepped through the door, she was immediately embraced by a strong force. The two of them immediately rolled onto the bed. After the intense session, the man hugged Charlene and asked, You've been Jinmani's manager for so long. Why haven't you settled her yet? Charlene lay on the bed and scoffed. After all, she has been trained by Hai Rui for so many years. How can she be swayed so easily? But we can make use of this Tongning that just popped up. Do whatever you want. Let's hurry up. Recently, Star King has been suppressed by Hai Rui and have suffered quite a bit. Hai Rui directly sent Qinyu to the 18th level of hell without leaving them any face. The higher-ups are currently furious. If we can win over Zhenmani, then I will definitely become the boss of the publicity department. I'm going to post a poll right now. Tongning versus Zhenmani. I refuse to believe that they won't fight. Charlene wrapped herself in a bathrobe and sat down in front of the computer. In reality, she had already been planning to lure Zhenmani and Hai Rui into a fight. But, now that Tongning had appeared, it was a piece of cake. Charlene wasn't originally a part of Star King. But after being with this man, she slowly leaned towards Star King. After all, she wanted love. The man hugged Charlene from behind in satisfaction and kissed her on the back. Darling, you've worked hard. National treasure model Zhenmani vs popular model Tongning. Who suits your taste better? Long legs or a sexy bottom? Which is your first choice? On the surface, this poll seemed like a prank by the fans. But in reality, it contained a lot of information. The fans did not take it seriously. They simply voted for fun. Because of Tongning and Mo Ting's relationship, and the fact that Zhenmani was often away from the country, they were more than willing to support Tongning. Only a small number of people in the entertainment industry knew that Tongning couldn't compare to a national treasure. When Manny walked into a secret show, Tongning was still rolling in bed with a jerk. It's true that Tongning is better than everyone else, but compared to Manny, there's still a gap. Chapter 250. This time, Tongning and Zhenmani were evenly matched in terms of professionalism. They each had their own advantages. But when it came to achievements, they were miles apart. Zhenmani was able to beat Tongning in terms of statistics, but she also had her own legendary years. From this point alone, Tongning's disadvantage was obvious. So for Tongning, Zhenmani was her biggest rival on the domestic runway. It was likely she wouldn't be able to catch up to her for a long time to come. No, perhaps in Zhenmani's heart, Tongning wasn't even considered a rival. Longjia looked at the boring poll online and excitedly walked over to Tongning. She said to her, "Have you seen this poll? It's about whether you want a sexy butt or long legs." Tongning happened to be reading a book. She glanced at the screen and realized her votes were double that of Zhenmani's. She quickly looked away. Zhenmani has beaten me in too many ways. This poll is too fake. If we were to ask an expert to evaluate it, I would definitely get 0 votes. How can you say that? Longjia put away her computer unhappily. Her fans were all protecting Tongning, yet she was the one who had lowered her own prestige. There's no need to slander others just because they are competitors. Reality is as it is. For example, if a pretty face won the Best Acting Award because of her popularity, do you think she would be able to accept herself? Tongning closed the book in her lap and said in seriousness, "Don't underestimate yourself, but you need to look at the truth. Zhenmani's future isn't limited to this. As for me, what are you doing? Our intentions are different. Go tell the fans to keep a low profile. I've overpraised Mo Euro to death in the past. Do you want me to suffer the same fate?" The entertainment industry was simply a game where the high stepped on the low. Today, you stepped on someone else, tomorrow, they would step on you. This industry had no lack of talent and talents. There was always someone better out there, so no one could be number one forever. Is it necessary for you to make yourself sound like you're worthless? Don't tell me you've never paid attention to Zhenmani. Tongning flipped through her book again and focused her attention on the topic. Of course, as soon as Longjia heard this, she hugged her laptop and squatted down beside the sofa, trying her best to understand what kind of person Zhenmani was. In the end, she understood what Tongning was trying to say. Tongning had always maintained a low profile. Maintaining a stable state of mind was the key to defeating her enemies. It was as if she could see her position clearly at any time and quickly make all kinds of judgments about the enemy. Something's not right, Tongning. Just a moment ago, There were less than 10,000 votes. How did it suddenly jump to 100,000? Plus, the comments are all on your side. Long Jie quickly showed Tongning the poll she had just received. Don't tell me you got it right. I suddenly smell a conspiracy. Tongning received the laptop and had a look. As expected, at this moment, Mo Ting was at the office. As soon as he found out about the vote, he closed his laptop and gave Tongning a phone call. Don't worry, I'll handle it. I'm not worried about myself. According to Zhenmani's current status, she can leave at any time. I simply don't want to put you in a difficult position. You're a dignified CEO, but you ignored the first place and became the agent for the third place. If it were me, I wouldn't understand either. Oh. Mo Ting suddenly let out a gentle laugh. He then asked in a suspicious tone, in that case, what kind of problem do you think she will give me? For example, being her manager. Mrs. Mo, are you jealous? Mo Ting asked in a serious tone. However, the smile in his eyes gradually deepened. Did you think that since Hai Rui can support her, they can't step on her? Hai Rui doesn't care about doing something like that, but it depends on the person. Over the years, whether it's through tricks, underhanded means, bed climbing or bribery, not a single person has escaped my grasp. If Hai Rui can support her to this day, they can also make sure she doesn't have a tomorrow. As Mo Ting said these words, his tone was firm and unquestionable. If Zhenmani thought she was a piece of cake, she was more than welcome to try out the consequences. But she is your bargaining chip to suppress Star King. Mrs. Mo, if Hai Rui can support one Zhenmani, they can also support another. So, are you treating me like Zhenmani? Tongning's voice suddenly sounded a little strange. I've never been Zhenmani's manager. Tongning smiled on the phone. Although she didn't receive Mo Ting's comforting hug, she knew she was unique in Mo Ting's heart. That was enough for her. After Mo Ting finished his phone call with Tongning, he instructed Lu Che to contact the media and asked them to immediately delete the voting information. He wanted the internet trolls to have nowhere to go. Of course, Lu Che acted quickly and the internet trolls did the same. As a result, Charlene, who was busy refreshing her feed, gritted her teeth in anger. In less than 10 minutes, Mo Ting had completely uprooted the internet trolls. Of course, Charlene didn't dare to randomly post a second post because it would expose a lot of information. Luckily, she had a screenshot with her. So, she directly showed it to Zhenmani. What is this? Votes from the netizens. Charlene tried her best to maintain her composure. Just a moment ago, the number of votes reached 100,000. But it's now been deleted again. Zhenmani's fingers trembled as she looked at the netizens' comments. Tongning's fans have already publicly stepped on you. Are you still going to tolerate it? Charlene retrieved her phone from Zhenmani's hands and sighed. I know you're worried about President Mo. But President Mo is currently standing on Tongning's side. In that case, what do you want me to do? Of course, I want you to prove your status in Hai Rui, Charlene said to Zhenmani. Charlene said to Zhenmani. In the past, it was fine if President Mo didn't care about his artists' matters. But now he has actually stepped out and become the manager of one of his artists. Then, based on your conditions with a manager like him, this would be the strongest combination. For someone of Tongning's status, wouldn't it be more suitable if she and Hua Jingjing share the same manager? Are you asking me to lower myself and beg President Mo to be my manager? Zhenmani glared at Charlene. She felt Charlene's idea was a little shocking. How could you be so subservient? If you can't bring yourself to do it, then let me test President Mo. That should be fine, right? Charlene's words directly attacked Zhenmani's heart. When the time comes, if he becomes your manager, the two of you will be even closer. Zhenmani was tempted. Just like Charlene said, Mo Ting never interfered with her artist's matters in the past, so she had no excuse. But, now that Mo Ting had stepped out of retirement to manage someone, she was at least in a better position than Tongning, right? So she silently agreed to let Charlene test Mo Ting. She could tolerate anything, but having her status shaken was something she couldn't tolerate. Plus, she didn't want to destroy the unity that Hai Rui had built up over the years. But with Tongning's appearance, The balance in Hai Rui had begun to tilt. Chapter 251. The vote did not cause a huge commotion because the fans were still caught up in the relationship between Mo Ting and Tang Ning. So before they received a definite answer, this craze would continue for quite some time. But Charlene didn't care. As long as Jean Manny saw it, her plan would not have gone to waste. As Jean Manny agreed to Charlene's suggestion, as soon as the couple returned to Hai Rui, Charlene requested to see Mo Ting. Fang Yu asked for Mo Ting's opinion through an internal line, and received Mo Ting's approval. Manny, I will definitely fight for you. Don't worry. Before Charlene went upstairs, she stared at Jean Manny with an unusually sincere and passionate gaze. As usual, Jean Manny nodded her head impatiently in a casual manner. Only after Charlene's gaze disappeared from her sight, did she put away her phone, and stand up to look for Fang Yu. I want to go upstairs and listen to what she has to say. Fang Yu shrugged his shoulders. Together with Jean Manny, they reached the top floor a step behind Charlene. From the moment Charlene stepped into the CEO's office, she sat on the sofa with her head down. She didn't have the courage to lift her head and look at Mo Ting. This man held the life and death of an artist in his hands. A simple word from him could destroy her. But she had already gotten to this point. There was no turning back. If Mo Ting was to find out that she was the one that instigated the relationship between Jean Manny and Hai Rui, she would not be able to predict or control the outcome. Since she had already taken the first step, she had no choice but to take the next step. So Charlene controlled her heartbeat and asked Mo Ting with a trembling voice, "President Mo. Speak." Mo Ting sat on the sofa, dressed in a brown suit that accentuated his strong and muscular body. Before he married Tang Ning, Mo Ting's clothes were mainly dark gray. But ever since Tang Ning started matching clothes for him, the way he dressed changed. Whatever Tang Ning matched, he would wear. The feeling of being covered in the warmth of Tang Ning's fingertips made his heart feel warm and protected, even in the cold winter, as he faced the darkness of the entertainment industry. When Manny returned to China last night, she was a little upset. Charlene chose to reveal the reason. Although she didn't say anything, I feel like she is a little bothered by the fact that President Mo has become Tang Ning's manager. Does Tang Ning need to feel bad when I'm her manager? Mo Ting asked. Charlene had no choice but to look away. Not many people weren't afraid of Mo Ting. Actually, Star King had offered her a few times, but Manny did not waver. She was a grateful person. So, with the agency's hard work, Manny was able to achieve the irreplaceable status she has today. But on her first day back, Manny was immediately ostracized by Tang Ning's fans. President Mo. As Manny's manager, I simply hope you don't lose sight of her. Get to the point. Mo Ting had no interest in her long speech. Since President Mo has become Tang Ning's manager, it seems he will also consider taking care of Manny. Although Manny is wholeheartedly loyal to Hai Rui, I can tell that she is struggling internally. The conditions at Star King are very generous, and last week, she even went on a trip with the heir of Star King. Actually, I was afraid that Manny would lose confidence in Hai Rui because of this. Plus, as soon as she returned, she was ostracized by a ruthless newcomer. Mo Ting stood up with a bright look in his eyes. He already knew what Charlene's motive was. But hearing it from his own ears was a completely different matter. It was quite interesting. Ruthless? Was she referring to his wife? Was she referring to a ruthless newcomer? If I'm Jean Manny's manager, what about you? Mo Ting asked with interest. No manager is willing to give up their own position and fight for the interests of their artist. I never knew you were so noble. I just want Manny to get what she deserves. So being Jean Manny's manager is what she deserves? Aha. Mo Ting remained silent for a few seconds before he stood up and said coldly, "You are indeed not suitable to be Jean Manny's manager." After speaking, Mo Ting turned to the door and said, "Jean Manny, come in and deal with your manager." Charlene never expected to see Jean Manny standing outside the door. Her face turned pale as her hands trembled as she held onto her skirt to hide her panic. Afterwards, Jean Manny crossed her arms and walked into the office. After greeting Mo Ting politely, she immediately threw a slap across Charlene's face. When did I go on an outing with the heir of Star King? When did the people of Imperial Star offer me an olive branch? Charlene, do you think I have a bad temper and low IQ? Do you know what your biggest weakness is? With my current status, there is a long line of people that want to be my manager. Yet, you're willing to give it to me? Are you joking with me? Charlene's face turned from white to red. It was an interesting sight to behold. But at this time, Zhen Mani turned to Mo Ting and said, Charlene is my manager. I want to take her home and deal with her. You can leave. Charlene, stay, Mo Ting said coldly. He did this because Charlene had said bad things about Tongning a moment ago. Zhen Mani originally wanted to ask more questions, but since Mo Ting had already spoken, she had no choice but to follow his orders and leave the office. Charlene covered her face as tears rolled down her cheeks. She looked pitiful and delicate. However, in Mo Ting's eyes, there were only two types of people in this world, Tongning and others. It seems, you still haven't understood who is in charge of this industry. Mo. President Mo. Do you know what taboo you've committed? Mo Ting lifted his head and glared at Charlene. Look at me. I don't know. Charlene was so scared that her body trembled as she spoke. Can you describe Tongning again? In Charlene's mind, her words flashed past her mind. A ruthless newbie. I don't care what trap you have planned or what tricks you have up your sleeves. None of it is as evil as what you just said. Star King bribed you and gave you the courage to negotiate with me, Mo Ting said as he sat down in his office chair. He then continued. Although you are not suitable to be Zhen Mani's manager, I have decided to keep you by her side. After hearing this, Charlene's eyes grew wide. No, President Mo Mani will torture me to death. You have no choice. If I hear the name Tongning from your mouth again, I'll try. 1. Try. Chapter 252. Zhen Mani thought. According to Mo Ting's temper, after what Charlene had done, there was no way she would stay at Hai Rui. But in the end, Charlene returned to her side in a daze. Why are you still here? Charlene looked at Zhen Mani timidly. Her usual domineering attitude of leading Zhen Mani around had completely disappeared. All that was left was a pitiful expression as tears welled up in her eyes. President Mo won't let me leave, Charlene said as she sobbed. He wants me to learn my lesson and continue to be your manager. Zhen Mani's expression suddenly changed. The reason why she tolerated Charlene stabbing her in the back and asked Charlene to look for Mo Ting was because she wanted Mo Ting to personally see what her manager was like. That way, she would have a chance of becoming Mo Ting's model. But Mo Ting actually let Charlene back? On the surface, it seemed like he was doing her a favor by allowing her to torture Charlene. But in reality, he was giving her a warning. Evil thoughts shouldn't be messed around. Why did Tongning have everything she wanted, but others had it so difficult? What kind of charm did Tongning have? Although the staff at Hai Rui didn't normally gossip, Tongning still found out about everything that happened that day from Hu Jingjing. She had already predicted that Zhen Mani would make things difficult for Mo Ting. Unfortunately, both Zhen Mani and her manager had overestimated her. At the same time, she also heard that Mo Ting had sent Charlene back to Zhen Mani's side. But this obviously didn't fit Mo Ting's style. 7 p.m. Mo Ting pushed open the front door to find Tongning dressed in a white turtleneck, cooking in front of the kitchen counter. His worries lessened a lot. It was winter. After all, wearing thick clothes would prevent her from getting burned. Tongning felt Mo Ting's grip on her, so she laughed and exclaimed, "Don't hug me too tightly, be careful of the oil. I just want to hug you like this." Mo Ting placed his chin on the back of Tongning's neck and inhaled her unique scent. Tongning turned off the stove and hooked her arms around Mo Ting's neck. "Why did you send Charlene back? You never keep an eyesore like this around. She said something wrong today, so she needs to receive the highest punishment. Zhen Mani won't let her off. You're too ruthless." Mo Ting held onto Tongning's waist tightly as he looked down at her. "Mrs. Mo, it seems you have a problem with the way I handled things?" Tongning let out a gentle laugh as she tilted her head and planted a kiss on Mo Ting's lips to comfort him. As long as you're happy. Mo Ting let go of his wife in satisfaction and returned to the study room to deal with some work. However, Tongning let out a laugh. Charlene had asked Fang Yu about the relationship between Tongning and Mo Ting. The only reason she had returned to Zhen Mani's side was because of how ruthless Tongning was. I said one bad thing about you, and now I'm being pranked like this. We have to be more careful in the future. These were Fang Yu's exact words. However, Mo Ting did not take it home to express his feelings. In reality, Tongning completely understood how Mo Ting felt. Because if they were faced with the same problem and someone was gossiping about it, she would be even more agitated than Mo Ting. But Tongning, the president, doesn't hide how good he is to you. This will definitely bring you trouble, so you need to be careful. I understand. Tongning let out a gentle laugh. After hanging up the phone, Tongning was still thinking about how much she loved how good Mo Ting was to her. After dinner was ready, Tongning carried the food into the study room. Seeing Mo Ting was still busy working, she directly leaned on his back. What's wrong? Mo Ting asked without lifting his head. Although he was thinking about work, his heart was constantly moved by Tongning. If you're already so good to me now, what will happen in a few years? What will happen in a few decades? Will your love disappear? Tongning suddenly sighed. With such a beautiful relationship, if the manager were to betray me, it would probably cost me my life. After hearing her sigh, Mo Ting pulled her into his embrace and held her in his arms as he read through some documents. I can't give you an answer. In that case, let's eat. After speaking, Tongning tried to get up, but Mo Ting pressed her down onto the ground. Tongning's eyes grew wide in surprise. She realized this man was getting more and more tricks up his sleeves. I can't tell you how much I like you. If I have to find a way to express myself, I can dig my heart out. Would you like that? Tongning lay quietly under Mo Ting's body as tears suddenly rolled down her cheeks. Because of this, Tongning had the courage to respond. I can do anything for you, even if I have to give you my life. Not long after, a passionate kiss landed on her lips without any warning. While others were trying to make do with their lives, the way they interacted was to see who loved the other more. In the study room, after a stormy night, the documents were all crumpled up. Tongning leaned against Mo Ting's body to calm herself down. Seeing the mess on the floor, she couldn't help but ask, "Don't you have a meeting tomorrow? What about the documents?" Mo Ting wrapped one arm around Tongning and held onto a document with the other. This is the film and television contract with Shanning. But, to be able to be lovey-dovey with you once in a while, it's worth it to cancel the contract. Tongning's ears turned red as the couple returned to the bedroom to wash up. After dinner, they tidied up the study room. Afterwards, the atmosphere returned to normal. Mo Ting once again looked through his contract while Tongning leaned against his shoulder and flipped through a fashion magazine. It's the end of the year, and there are a lot of award ceremonies. Hai Rue is holding a party next Monday. Although it's to celebrate the winners, it's also Hai Rue's 20th anniversary. You will also need to attend. Will there be a lot of people? Tongning asked as she leaned against Mo Ting's leg. Probably a lot. In that case, will you be attending as my manager or as the CEO of Hai Rue? Tongning asked. You will know when the time comes. After speaking, Mo Ting was silent for a moment. He knew Tongning didn't like events like this, so he added, "If you don't like it, you can leave early." "It's not that I don't like it," Tongning replied with her eyes closed. "Because this is your kingdom. Whether she liked it or not was already meaningless. The person I love is you. It has nothing to do with your position. Plus, I like it when you stand in the most eye-catching place." Mo Ting could hear the admiration and reliance in Tongning's voice as she spoke. This was the best proof of the meaning of this man's existence. Of course, although the two of them were the highlight of the event, the competition between Tongning and Zhen Mani also attracted a lot of attention. As for this event, they would be sharing the same stage. Chapter 253. Actually, when it came to Zhenmani's matter, Tongning had always been evasive. This was her personality. She wanted to avoid the spotlight. So while Zhenmani was in the country, she tried her best to avoid any form of friction with her. Most of the time, she deliberately tolerated it. But those that were interested in a good show would never complain about things getting out of hand. Online discussions about Tongning and Zhenmani's PK were once again trending. This time it was no longer manipulated by Charlene, it was naturally initiated. One had absolute skills in the modeling industry, while the other was a newcomer supported by the CEO of Hai Rui. Netizens were currently discussing who was more glamorous. Over the next few days, under Mo Ting's arrangements, Tongning accepted a few filming jobs in the country. She wanted to use her busy work to respond to the boring gossip. However, that night, she received a phone call from Hua Jingjing asking her to attend a gathering at the television tower. Tongning could reject anyone, but she couldn't reject Hua Jingjing. So after giving Mo Ting a simple explanation, she headed to the top floor of the television tower with Long Jia. From the top, Tongning looked down at the night view of Beijing. She couldn't help but fall into a daze. Hua Jingjing held onto a glass of red wine and said from behind her, "I want to get married." Tongning froze for a moment as she turned around in surprise. "Why are you suddenly saying this? How many decades do I have left to waste?" Hua Jingjing laughed at herself before standing up and walking over to Tongning's side. "I want to get married. I want to have a caring husband and a stable family. So what if I'm an international supermodel?" Tongning already knew that Hua Jingjing had already accepted everything. So it wasn't strange for her to make a decision like this. "There's a great French man chasing after me. I want to give it a try, so I don't think I'll back out yet. I have to support you. Otherwise, if I leave, I would be giving Zhenmani more leverage to threaten your husband." Tongning was glad that she had made a friend like Hua Jingjing at a time like this. So she smiled and replied, "We're not afraid." "If you're not afraid, isn't President Mo also not afraid? Isn't he afraid of you getting hurt the most?" Hua Jingjing leaned against the edge of the table and laughed. She then said in seriousness, "Tongning, to be honest, I can't remember how many years it's been, but you are the first person that has been willing to help me when I was in pain. I, Hua Jingjing, don't have many skills. My education and education are all fake. But when it comes to people, I will never be fake. I don't care if I can still work in the modeling industry in the future. If you are in trouble, call me first. I will be there immediately." After hearing Hua Jingjing's words, Tongning lowered her head and laughed at herself. "Actually, I don't have many friends. No matter what, from now on you shouldn't make do." Hua Jingjing nodded her head before putting down her glass and heading to the bathroom. Tongning was a little tipsy and Long Jia was taking care of her. Inside the bathroom, Hua Jingjing was standing in front of the sink washing her hands when she overheard people discussing. "Just a moment ago, I bumped into the broken shoe model Hua Jingjing and Tongning. They were on the observation deck. From the looks of it, these two are really as good as the rumors say. They are really on good terms." Do you think Hua Jingjing has no sense of shame after being played by a jerk for so many years? What touching diary. What evidence can Hai Rui not produce? What's so good about that bitch Tongning? I can't believe she managed to get the CEO of Hai Rui to be her personal manager. Think about her skills in bed, how mesmerizing. Yet a bunch of brain-dead fans are obsessed with the idea of being a couple. How disgusting. I know, right? Hai Rui's true national treasure, Zhenmani, is back. To be honest, I've been a fan of Manny for many years. Yet, she's still being suppressed by Tongning. If I was her, I would have stomped on Tongning 1,000 times over. Haha. I really want to see them on the same stage. I want to see Manny crush her. Hua Jingjing listened to the three women gossiping, then turned around and said to them, "Can you repeat what you just said?" The three women were touching up their makeup in the bathroom, and had no idea Hua Jingjing was behind the partition. Now that they were caught red-handed, the three women immediately hugged each other. "What are you trying to do? What were you talking about just now?" Because they knew Hua Jingjing was a public figure, the three women looked at each other and immediately yelled. Hua Jingjing scolded someone. Hua Jingjing hit someone. It didn't take long before everyone's attention was drawn to Hu Jingjing as they furiously snapped photos of her. As soon as Tang Ning heard the news, she rushed over to the bathroom. Just as Long Jie was about to escort the two women out, Hu Jingjing did not budge an inch. Instead, she said in a cold voice, "Since you said I scolded and hit someone then, I might as well admit it." After speaking, Hu Jingjing took a step forward and slapped the three women across the face. Everyone was dumbfounded. "Are you crazy?" Tang Ning grabbed onto Hu Jingjing. "Have you forgotten who you are?" "I haven't forgotten who I am. That's why I'm telling these gossipy women to wait until they have the ability to become like me before they judge me." In reality, Hu Jingjing wasn't angry because of herself. She was angry because of Tang Ning. Even in a situation like this, if she was asked to hit someone, she would not hold back. The three women immediately sat on the floor and started crying. Meanwhile, Long Jie anxiously said to the two women, "Let's leave this place first." Why did they suddenly start fighting? Hu Jingjing did not regret her actions today. Before she left, she pointed at the three women and warned, "You better not let me find out who you are." With the protection of her assistant, the two women quickly boarded the van. Tang Ning looked at Hu Jingjing's red palms and couldn't help but ask, "You're not an impulsive person. What happened?" "It's nothing, don't worry about me. The French guy that's chasing me is very rich. I took the opportunity to test his sincerity." Hu Jingjing laughed. "Did someone talk bad about me?" Tang Ning wasn't so easy to fool. All Tang Ning needed to do was look at Hu Jingjing, and she would understand. "You know I don't care. Why did you do this? I'm about to retire from the industry, why should I care? I, Hu Jingjing, have been in the industry for so many years, but I've never caused such big news." "You are creating trouble for Fangyu." With the mention of Fangyu, Hu Jingjing laughed. "Actually, I've wanted to tease him for a long time. Also, Tang Ning, don't lose when you're on the same stage as Zhenmani." Tang Ning sighed. She was so angry that she couldn't help but laugh. Actually, it was clear to see that Hu Jingjing was starting to have her own temper. She no longer needed to endure for anyone. She could decide what kind of life she wanted to lead. "I'll avoid it, but that doesn't mean I'm afraid," Tang Ning replied calmly. "Those three women are Zhenmani's fans." Hu Jingjing looked into Tang Ning's eyes and said in seriousness, "Whether you accept it or not, Zhenmani already views you as an opponent. If you don't want President Mo to be put in a difficult position, you need to work hard." Chapter 254. For Hu Jingjing to get to where she was today, she definitely didn't rely on her stupidity to hit someone. She was extremely clear-headed. Rather than letting her stir up trouble in the dark, why don't we take the initiative? Tang Ning looked down at Hu Jingjing's hand as her heart skipped a beat. "This should be between me and Zhenmani. You shouldn't be dragged into it. Your problem is my problem. There's no need to be unreasonable." That night, news of Hu Jingjing hitting someone appeared on the headlines of the entertainment news. It wasn't because of Hu Jingjing's popularity. It was because Hai Rui's artists never made such a low-level mistake in front of the public. But Hu Jingjing had made a move. In fact, the person she hit was a fan of Zhenmani. For the reporters, this kind of internal conflict was quite attractive. In the wee hours of the morning, Fangyu was indeed bombarded with phone calls from the media. Hai Rui immediately began their PR, but because one of the three women that Hu Jingjing had slapped was the daughter of a high-ranking official, it wasn't easy to get rid of Hu Jingjing's PR. The daughter of a high-ranking official went straight to the hospital to get her injuries checked and filed a complaint against Hu Jingjing. Meanwhile, Hai Rui immediately responded by promising to give the other party a satisfactory answer. So, before the sun had even risen, Fangyu was already sitting on the sofa in Hu Jingjing's apartment. He sighed helplessly. "You sure know how to pick your martial arts targets. What are their conditions?" Hu Jingjing asked as she stood in front of the bed in her pajamas. "They want you to publicly apologize and compensate them for their losses." Fangyu put down the documents in his hand and looked at Hu Jingjing in confusion. "Are you indulging in your own life? In the past, you've never caused trouble for Hai Rui by hitting someone." Hu Jingjing turned around and placed her face in front of Fang Yu's. Come, let's give you 2 slaps. Aren't you afraid that President Mo will hit you? President Mo knows why I hit you, Hu Jingjing said with a deeper meaning. After speaking, she jumped up on the sofa. Tongning has been getting beaten up and bullied all this time. Did Junmani think no one knows? Tongning has been avoiding Junmani because she doesn't want to have a direct confrontation with her. But you and I both know that Junmani will only push her luck. Let me light this fire and stop Tongning from avoiding it. Isn't that great? You sure put a lot of thought into Tongning. Fang Yu understood what Hu Jingjing was trying to say. Although Hai Rui was stable and united and didn't have any issues with Mo Ting becoming Tongning's manager, Junmani was already considered half a part of Hai Rui. Now that her status had been affected, they couldn't just let it go so easily. That's because I've already decided to retire from the industry. Hu Jingjing explained. How many more times can I help Tongning? As soon as Fang Yu heard Hu Jingjing mention withdrawing from the industry, he was shocked. It was like he had never thought about this before. In fact, when he spoke, he was a little tongue-tied. Withdraw. From the industry? Why? I'm tired. I want to get married, Hu Jingjing said as she lay down on the sofa and closed her eyes. Fang Yu was silent for a moment before he suddenly lowered his head. Have you told President Mo that you want to leave the industry? After Hu Jingjing's matter is resolved, I will speak to her, Hu Jingjing replied in a low voice. Where do you plan to go in the future? I'm not sure. I want to find a lover, I want to have a stable family, and I want to have a child. But for the time being, none of these seem easy. Fang Yu did not say a word. To be exact, his heart was in a mess. In the past, he had always felt a woman like Hu Jingjing was hard to understand. She wasn't a cold and aloof person in reality, she always appeared to have a lot on her mind. There were many times when Fang Yu wanted to ask her if anyone had ever walked into her heart. But, ever since her private life was exposed, Fang Yu realized Hu Jingjing was actually a simple person. She simply loved someone, simply endured hardships and never complained, even when fate was cruel to her. I'll leave it to fate. On this particular day, as Fang Yu stepped out of Hu Jingjing's apartment, he no longer had the frivolous expression that he usually had. In fact, he looked a little lost. In reality, he had been paying attention to Hu Jingjing for a long time. In order to stop Hu Jingjing from being scolded by netizens, Fang Yu drove over to the home of a government official in the middle of the night. Of course, since it was a government official, it was impossible for him to meet someone from the entertainment industry. But Fang Yu had his own methods. He directly told the security guard at the door to pass on a message. If you don't resolve the matter privately, according to Hai Rui's usual style, your entire family may end up being searched. I'm sure you don't want your efforts to go to waste at this time, right? Although the security guard made him wait until daybreak, he still gave him a simple answer. We will withdraw the lawsuit, but Hu Jingjing must apologize. If she wants to withdraw from the top searches, then she can withdraw it. In the end, Fang Yu managed to stop the smoke from spreading before the incident erupted. Hu Jingjing could help Tongning, but she didn't need to destroy herself like this. Even though she no longer cared about her reputation. Fang Yu is really capable. He even managed to deal with a government official. Long Jie couldn't help but sigh as soon as she heard the news. In comparison, Hai Rui was not the only difference between her and Fang Yu's capabilities. Fang Yu has been standing outside the government official's office for 5 hours. Mo Ting said as he ate breakfast. He's running a high fever. The phone call just now was from him. After hearing this, Tongning was a little surprised. It's that cold. Aha. Has he always done things like this, or is this the only time? Tongning asked as she handed a piece of toast to Mo Ting. If I remember correctly, he has always played it safe and always considered his options. This time, it doesn't seem to fit his style. After hearing this, Tongning lowered her head and thought for a long time. In the end, she asked suspiciously, why do I feel like Fang Yu's feelings for Jingjing aren't simple? He has never shown any signs of it. Perhaps I'm being too sensitive. Plus, Fang Yu treats everyone well. Tongning temporarily put aside her speculation. and did not pursue the matter any further. Instead, she turned to Long Jie and said, "Give him a phone call in a moment. How about I ask Lu Che to go have a look?" Long Jie suggested. Tang Ning looked at Long Jie and suddenly laughed. "Lu Che is my husband's personal assistant. Why does he have to listen to you?" Long Jie lowered her head in embarrassment. Mo Ting did not say a word, but he agreed with Long Jie's suggestion. Long Jie understood what Mo Ting meant, so she immediately stood up and hid to one side to make a phone call. Tang Ning was the only one that felt the matter wouldn't be over so quickly. It wasn't easy for Zhen Manny to find an excuse to cause trouble. Chapter 255. Lu Che couldn't resist his girlfriend's pestering, so he headed to Fong Yu's apartment that he hadn't visited in 800 years. However, the person to open the door was a 3 to 4-year-old girl. According to her strength, it was impossible for her to open the door. So Lu Che looked at Fong Yu, who was standing behind the little girl. His face was pale, and his forehead was covered in sweat. It was obvious he was seriously ill. Lu Che couldn't understand the situation in front of him, so he asked, "Are you okay? Who is this child?" "My sister's child." "Where did you get your sister from?" Lu Che exposed him. "Why does your sister's child look so much like you?" Fong Yu laughed. He didn't expect to be exposed. "My daughter, Fong Yu. Because I have to take care of her. I have a fever." Fong Yu carried his daughter onto the sofa and headed to the kitchen to pour Lu Che a glass of water. "The auntie that takes care of her has also caught a cold." "When did you have a daughter? I've never heard you mention it." Everyone in this industry has their own secrets. Fong Yu distanced himself from his daughter. Perhaps he was afraid of being infected. "By the way, why are you here?" Lu Che looked around Fong Yu's apartment carefully. Long Jie had instructed him to find out if a man had someone in his heart. By looking at the place he lived, he would definitely be able to find some clues. At this moment, Fong Yu's apartment was a little messy. Mainly because of Fong Yu's existence, the place was filled with things that the child needed. "Why did you go and help Hua Jingjing suffer? You didn't need to stand around for 5 hours. Since I've already helped her, I might as well help her to the end. That government official has a lot of pride. If I stand around for 5 hours to help him vent his anger, then things will go a lot smoother. As long as it's worth it," Fong Yu said as he ran his fingers through his messy hair. Actually, when he was sick, his hair was messy and his body was weak. "Do you have feelings for Hua Jingjing?" "Are you kidding me? I already have a daughter." Fong Yu laughed in disbelief. "Plus, my feelings for Hua Jingjing are purely a form of admiration. What are you thinking? What about your daughter's mother?" Fong Yu choked and did not say another word. His eyes were filled with confusion. Lu Che didn't ask further. He just put his gentle gaze on Fong Yu, who was still playing with the building blocks. "Why don't I take your daughter home, and you go to the hospital yourself? Do you know how to take care of children?" Fong Yu teased. "Although Pudding is a good girl, it's not easy to take care of her. Oh, by the way, Pudding is her nickname. Hurry up and go to the hospital. She's already in this state. How long can your daughter resist your virus?" "All right then. I'll write down some things to note." So bringing back Fong Yu from Fong Yu's home was Lu Che's biggest reward. As soon as Long Jie saw the little girl, she thought to herself, "I'm finished. Since I already have a daughter, it's impossible for Fong Yu and Hua Jingjing to be together." Afterwards, she immersed herself in playing with the little girl. It didn't take long before Tang Ning found out about Fong Yu's daughter, but she still explained the reason why Fong Yu was sick. Hua Jingjing hated owing people favors. So she asked Lu Che for Fong Yu's apartment address and left her manager and assistant behind as she drove over to Fong Yu's apartment. Fong Yu looked at the disguised Hua Jingjing and sighed. "You are currently the focus of the media. Madam, please let me rest for a while. If the reporters get a photo of us, we won't be able to explain ourselves even if we have 10 mouths. No need to go to the hospital. I'll leave as soon as your fever subsides." With Hua Jingjing's experience in taking care of an alcoholic, she was more than capable of taking care of a sick person. Afterwards, Hua Jingjing pushed Fong Yu onto the sofa. She then covered him with ice and a cool breeze. Fang Yu's mind cleared up a little. As he watched Hu Jingjing busying herself, he suddenly felt he was missing a woman. So he couldn't help but blurt out, Siruo. Hu Jingjing knelt beside Fang Yu. Hearing these two words, she realized Fang Yu must have mistaken her for someone else. This Siruo must be the child's mother, Hu Jingjing thought. I am Hu Jingjing. Fang Yu was silent for a moment as he covered his eyes with his arms and mumbled. Yes, Siruo is dead. Dead. Regardless of everything, Fang Yu's fever had finally subsided. Hu Jingjing looked at his sleeping face and helped him tidy up his room before leaving Fang Yu's apartment. However, the entire scene was captured by the paparazzi that had been following Hu Jingjing. So, the news intensified to the point where Hu Jingjing used sex to trade, and had an inappropriate relationship with Hai Rui's artist-director. Fang Yu's fever had subsided, but after seeing this piece of news, his head hurt even more. Originally, there was news of Hu Jingjing breaking up with Jin Mani because of Tongning and news of Hu Jingjing teaching Jin Mani's fans a lesson. But in the end, it turned into Hu Jingjing's personal problems, and even dragged Fang Yu into it. Jin Mani originally thought she could use this incident to put Tongning in her place. But, with Hu Jingjing's involvement, the direction of public opinion was completely wrong. Hai Rui released a shocking piece of news to divert the public's attention. As a result, the public's attention was also diverted. But even if the incident calmed down, their fates would still be closely intertwined with each other, and there was no way they could escape. As Hai Rui's celebration dinner was just around the corner, Tongning and Jin Mani were once again mentioned. As Mo Ting's manager and the CEO of Hai Rui, no one knew which side he would stand on, and who he would be more willing to protect. While Long Jie was picking out a dress for Tongning, she was a little worried. Tongning, if you and Jin Mani were to get into a fight, who do you think boss will side with? After all, Jin Mani's status in Hai Rui is quite important. If he is even slightly biased, it would definitely have a huge impact on everyone else in Hai Rui. Tongning sat in front of her dressing table and looked at herself in the mirror. I'm not sure either. But I hope Jin Mani stays true to her role. I'm guessing boss will still choose you. Is it that important? Tongning asked. No matter how Mo Ting handles this incident, I will support his decision. If boss really chooses Jin Mani, won't you feel the slightest bit sad? Or are you trying to fool? Long Jie scoffed. If boss chooses Jin Mani, I will no longer be his fan. Who cares about you being his fan? I don't care. Everyone wants to see you and Jin Mani on the same stage. This feeling is even more intense than when you went against Mo Yuro. Who is Jin Mani? She is an A-grade supermodel. Going against her is going to be a lot more interesting. Long Jie placed the dress in front of Tongning. Have you not seen how much trouble Jin Mani has caused you recently? Tongning smiled without saying a word. At this time, she received a phone call from Lu Che. Under Long Jie's surprised gaze, Tongning picked up the phone and heard Lu Che's cold voice. Hu Jingjing has been hit again. Hai Rui has blocked the news. Tongning's first reaction was, it was that jerk again. But Lu Che quickly explained. Someone chased after her and made a move on her. At the moment, we don't have any leads. But our initial suspicions are that Jin Mani has something to do with it. After hearing this, Tongning's expression turned cold. This challenge of hers is a bit harsh. Chapter 256. But I will accept this challenge. At Hai Rui, Jin Mani wasn't allowed to play any tricks. But that didn't mean she couldn't do it in private. Mo Ting sent Charlene back to her side, so she could get Charlene to make a move on Hu Jingjing. After that, she would deny everything. Apart from teaching Hu Jingjing a lesson for standing on the wrong side, she also wanted to let Hu Jingjing know that she had no place in Hai Rui. Even if Hu Jingjing used dirty tricks to make Mo Ting her manager, she would never be able to surpass her status in Hai Rui. The president already knows about this. Lu Che said to Tongning. Madam, the president will not let this matter pass so easily. Mo Ting had always hated it when people played dirty tricks behind their backs. This time, it happened right under his nose. Not to mention it was Jin Mani. Even if it was anyone else, he would not let it go. How is Jingjing's injury? The media are currently slandering her and Fang Yu. To prevent them from saying that she was abused by Fang Yu, she is currently hiding at home. Her manager is taking care of her, Lu Che explained. What about the doctor? I'm not sure. After hanging up Lu Che's phone, Tongning gave her husband a phone call. Ting. Mo Ting held onto his phone. He could obviously hear the urgency in Tongning's voice as she tried to suppress her anger. So he quickly replied, I've already taken care of the matter. Fang Yu has also arranged for a doctor to visit Hu Jingjing. Don't worry. I trust you. But I want to go see her. Tongning slowly calmed down. Wait for me to take care of something. I'll go with you, Mo Ting said gently. I'll come home later to pick you up. Okay, I'll wait for you. After Tongning hung up the phone, Mo Ting put down his phone. The flames in his eyes were bone-piercingly cold. He placed one hand on his desk and lifted his head to look at Fang Yu. He simply said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. As soon as Fang Yu heard these words, he was shocked. But he couldn't help but admit this was Mo Ting. The real Mo Ting was ruthless without any pretense. He was only gentle towards Tongning. But when it came to Zhen Mani, there was no way he would go easy on her just because she was a woman. But we will discuss this matter after Hai Rui's celebration dinner. Fang Yu made a rough plan in his mind before nodding his head and leaving the studio. 7 p.m., Mo Ting arrived home on time. Seeing Tongning sitting lazily on the sofa, not in a good mood, he reached out his hand and tousled her hair. Tongning lifted her head and looked at Mo Ting as she revealed a relaxed smile. She knew with him around, nothing would be a problem. Afterwards, the group arrived at Hu Jingjing's apartment building. However, because of the reporters' encirclement, there was no space for Tongning to walk around. Originally, Long Jie was supposed to step out of the car first to protect Tongning, but Mo Ting, who was sitting beside Tongning, suddenly said, let me do it. As soon as Long Jie heard this, she moved to the side to make room for the two. As soon as the paparazzi saw Long Jie, they immediately knew who was in the car. So they began to furiously take pictures of the car. However, as soon as Mo Ting peeked his head out, his cold and handsome face immediately froze. The excited reporter that was about to press the shutter immediately took a few steps back and grabbed onto his partner's arm, whispering, stop taking pictures, stop taking pictures. Afterwards, Mo Ting escorted Tongning out of the car and headed straight into Hu Jingjing's apartment. The reporter wanted to follow them, but he didn't have the guts to do anything else. Unless he wanted the agency to close down, he didn't dare to do anything else. Tongning is breaking the rules to have a manager like this. If we want to take pictures of them, it will depend on President Mo's mood. So, I'm betting that Tongning will win the battle between Zhen Mani and Tongning. After all, it will be a great show. Let's wait and see. Since President Mo is here, we might as well stop taking pictures. If we anger him, no one will have a good ending. The reporters downstairs began to discuss amongst themselves. Although they wanted to obtain some valuable first-hand information, they were afraid of Mo Ting. Afterwards, Tongning knocked on the door. Hu Jingjing's manager carefully asked who it was. After Tongning revealed her identity, the manager carefully opened the door and invited them in. As soon as the manager saw Mo Ting, although she did not say a word, she couldn't help but secretly wipe away her tears. Tongning knew why she was crying, so she reminded her to hurry into the bathroom and tidy herself up. As Hu Jingjing was in her bedroom, Mo Ting did not enter. Tongning went to the kitchen to fetch Mo Ting a glass of water. After calming her man down, she entered Hu Jingjing's bedroom. To be honest, as soon as she saw Hu Jingjing, Tongning almost burst into tears. The corner of Hu Jingjing's mouth was swollen, and her left cheekbone was covered in blood. From her appearance alone, she was almost unrecognizable. But she was still smiling. She was still smiling. Why are you here? Hu Jingjing tried to cover up, but Tongning quickly grabbed onto her arm. What are you trying to hide in front of me? Tongning's eyes turned red. I told you not to get involved in the past, yet you didn't listen. Don't you know I have Mo Ting to protect me? There's no point talking about this now. A moment later, Mo Ting appeared behind the couple. He glanced at Hu Jingjing and said to Tongning, "Leave us for now. I have something to say to Hu Jingjing." Tongning turned around and looked at Mo Ting in surprise. However, Mo Ting looked at her comfortingly. Tongning nodded her head and stood up. Facing Mo Ting on her own, Hu Jingjing was a little nervous. She wanted to stand up, but Mo Ting stopped her. "Lie down. I wonder what President Mo wants to talk to me about?" Mo Ting's aura was cold as he twirled the wedding ring between his fingers. If you truly have Tongning's best interests in mind, then don't cause her any more trouble and make her worry. President Mo should know why I want to aggravate their conflict. Did you think I would hurt Tongning just to balance the relationship between Hai Rui and myself? With me, there is no such thing as trying to cover things up. Mo Ting replied straightforwardly. So you don't need to keep using yourself to test my attitude. I simply hope Tongning's marriage is worth it. Whether she's worth it or not is between us. As for what I do, I don't need to tell you. Seeing that you truly care for Tongning, I won't hold it against you. But don't make another sacrifice like this and hurt yourself. That's not worth it. After speaking, Mo Ting stood up, walked out of Hu Jingjing's room and returned to Tongning's side. Tongning stood up from the sofa and smiled at him. In reality, she could roughly guess what he wanted to say. At the celebration dinner, I will definitely fight for you, Tongning promised in seriousness. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.